welcome to part 2 of Young Kirky Boy, friend of the channel, versus Steelborne on Speakeasy. We had to put a day break in the middle because it was Shabbat for Young Kirk, so he wasn't able to react yesterday. So we went over John Zerka's debate, and we're going to be doing that tomorrow with John Zerka joining us tomorrow. Hopefully I can understand it better because it will be more sober, but it also just seemed very complex with a lot of like background stuff required. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about if the Trinity can be found in the Old Testament. We're about halfway done the debate, so we're going to be hopefully finishing it. I don't know if we're going to get to the Q&A, but yeah, we're going to see if Kirk continues to hold his own. And if you want to join, you can click the link that's pinned and react alongside with us. It's in the chat. It's also in the description. And the man of the hour himself, Young Kirky Boy, and Big Soda.
I actually had a dream. Can I tell you about my dream this last night?
Sure.
I had a dream. I had a dream that I came out to my rabbi as transgender.
Oh no! Can I go back in time and answer no?
Yeah, you could ask for that compliment.
I should have known, man. What did he say in the dream? I'm curious. What did she say? What did she say?
Well, actually, my rabbi is a man, and I was pretty nervous.
I'm surprised.
Well, most Orthodox rabbis are men, but
Except
anyway,
the open Orthodox.
Yeah, except the open Orthodox where it's more women. But in any event, so I was scared. And I don't remember the exact details, but I remember not feeling great after coming out.
That's a sign.
I think that happens in real life.
Yeah, I think that's exactly how it would go if you actually did that. So I think your mind correctly predicted the outcome. So you got to workshop it in the dream. It didn't go well. Maybe it's not a good idea to tell in real life people that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the women at the synagogue said she would support me if I transitioned to be a woman, but she's the only person I told about that.
Why are you telling people your synagogue?
That's fucking wild. I tell people at my grocery store too.
Kirk, that is crazy. You gotta keep those thoughts inside your head, okay? Low key.
Even in someone else's head.
Definitely not at the synagogue, man. That's a place of worship. Come on.
Well, there's two people I talked to about transgender issues. One of them I told that I was considering being transgender, and she said she would be supportive. The other one, I didn't tell her directly that I wanted to be transgender, but I asked her what her opinion was on transgender people, and said she supports them. So one of them was more general.
Okay, well,
I'm noticing
the general.
I'm noticing a pattern. It's only women.
Yeah.
Well, it's only women.
Only in your dream do you have the courage to tell people, and it doesn't go so well.
No. Yeah, these were two women in real life that I talked about it.
No, I know. I'm saying only in your dream do you have the courage to tell a man, and it doesn't go hot.
Yeah, because I think statistically, if I told a man, it would be more they'd be more transphobic in real life.
That's one word for it.
Yeah, I'm getting a little transphobic here.
That's
Kirk,
one word for
what? You're not setting us up. You're poisoning your own well for this debate we're about to watch.
Wait, that's one word. That's one word for what, Confluence?
I would say another word would be based. Another word would be red-pilled.
Another word from what? To substitute what word?
Transphobic.
Okay.
Because you're saying that men wouldn't be like as accepting, and you're calling that transphobia. I'm saying that's not necessarily the word I would use for it, but
okay. Anyway, this is this is the rest of the debate. So yeah.
I just want to make one point before we continue. Brandon recommended a video. I watched it, and it was pretty fucking gay.
The meta ethics, the anti-moral realist thing.
Yeah, but that shit was whack.
What was whack about it?
It was more of a conversation, so there wasn't a lot of like pushback or anything. So it was kind of dry and stiff. They were having too good of a conversation.
Yeah, that doesn't really get my dopamine to where.
Yeah, I was like, they better start fighting halfway through. What's going on?
Yeah, that's terrible. Was it at least a good conversation? I mean, anti-realism.
Yeah.
That's what Brandon is.
Well, didn't you say you liked that video I sent about philosophy of math on the Lex Fridman, Joel David Hampkins interview?
I haven't watched it. I'm just saying I'm a big fan of Lex Friedman, and so I probably would like it, but I haven't watched
Okay,
it.
that's interesting because you said you were not interested in philosophy of math.
Yeah,
No, but I'm just interested in Lex Friedman. Like he's one of my favorite people on the internet. Like,
Oh,
I'm like people
I
who
like-
know.
I like Lex Friedman as well, and guess what religion he was born into?
He's a Jew. I know. The
Well,
Friedman
good.
part kind of gives it away.
The
I thought it was pronounced Friedman.
I started-
Friedman?
I started Friedman.
It's Fridman.
Yeah, it's Friedman.
It's Friedman. Lex Friedman.
It's not Friedman.
He's never pronounced his name like that.
He says his name all the time. He says, "Welcome to the Lex Friedman podcast." Like every episode, he says his own name.
Okay,
Kirk.
so it's Friedman. Okay, but I thought it's only an I. There's no E.
Yeah, that's how it's spelled. It is spelled Friedman, but I'm saying he at least always pronounces it Friedman. So I'm assuming he knows how to say his own last name.
I mean, there could be the rare potential that he doesn't, and that Kirk could be secretly right, and he's been
That's true.
mispronouncing his name for like 8 years now.
That's possible. Yeah. Kirk, you should try to go on the Lex Friedman show and then argue with him about how he's saying his name wrong his whole life, and ask him about Don Quixote.
But I don't ask that many people about Don Quixote. Stop with the Don Quixote news. It's getting old.
But
No, stop bringing it up, Kirk.
Yeah, if you didn't bring it up so much. Do you ask your rabbi about that too? Or only in your dreams?
No, I did ask a real rabbi about Don Quixote, but he didn't know what it was.
Oh my god, he did.
But anyway, stop with this. Please stop with the Don Quixote news. Whatever. But anyway, let's start with the debate. Let's start with the
Look,
debate.
it's that or the stepmom. I mean, those are your two classics. Okay, and your peeping Tom one. That's become a classic too. I don't think it was in the way you meant it to be, but it did become a classic. Once Keelan said it like 5 more times, now it's just funny. Kirk is one of those people where he says stuff that like no one laughs initially, but then they become hilarious later on. Which is good. Like you get some credit for that, Kirk.
It's humor that takes time to build.
Yeah, it really does. Because now the Don Quixote thing's hilarious. The Peeping Tom thing is hilarious. So they're real thinkers, I suppose.
When the Messianic era comes, the Messianic era will come once, because the whole premise of the Messianic era is that it's the end of days. It's the end of time.
I don't know exactly where we stopped, by the way, so we're kind of jumping in.
And it's the time when
just at a random spot. I mean, this is where we stopped, but
cling to God.
Kirk's still been holding his own.
If my opponent would like to say that in precise twice, he's
never
not
fails to get a laugh.
Proof, not providing both Occam's razor, common sense, and other things. And with that, I see the rest of my time.
All right. Thank you for that opening statement. And with that, we're going to get into the rebuttal round. So 5 minutes each for each debater to respond directly to their opponent's openings. So we're going to hand the mic back to Steelborne. Steelborne, whenever you're ready for your uninterrupted rebuttal.
I'll just see the rebuttal so we can get into the opening, because I want to do some cross-exam here.
Okay, so you're just going to cede your rebuttal?
Yeah, just see the rebuttal.
Okay. Cool Kid, did you want 5 minutes more to rebuttal?
I just remembering some classics from last time. Remember when Speakeasy asked what he wants to be called?
It's like, yeah, like, Cool Kid,
please.
I'll cede mine as well.
Okay, all right. Well, then with that being said, real quick to the audience, just a reminder, okay, get your questions in now, because at the end we're going to be doing a 30-minute Q&A. So if you have your question and you want it to be asked first, send it through Super Chat, Rumble Rant, Cash App, PayPal, because they will take priority in the Q&A. And if they fill up the whole Q&A, we may not get to the free questions.
Send easy all.
Someone told me that. Wait, who's talking right now?
Stillborn.
Of your money.
Oh, it sounded different. Someone told me that Kirk did bad in the Q&A. But people also said Kirk did bad in the debate. So
no, I was there in the Q&A, and I don't think there was nothing like Kirk did specifically bad. I even have a question that comes up.
Well,
okay.
Real quick, I do have a question for Confluence. Can we turn this up to 1.5 speed?
Oh, yeah.
Is
that what we did last time? Is that
yeah.
Last time we did 1.25. Can we do 1.5, or is that too fast?
We can try 1.5. I don't know if that's too fast though. We'll see.
Yes. Yeah.
There should be no free questions for this. Okay.
That's right. Tell them.
I'm prepping for this debate for 2 weeks.
Tell them. That's what I'm saying. But with that being said, thank you everyone for being here. Whenever you gentlemen are ready to get into this open floor, go ahead and jump in.
Steelborne, Steelman.
So you got we turn it down a little bit, like 1.4 or 1.35.
Yeah, this is a little. Well, I like that YouTube didn't used to have this. It used to just be like 1.25, 1.5.
This is the Hegelian dialectic. We start off with the thesis of 1.5 and the antithesis of 1.25. And then we get the synthesis of 1.35.
See, that's funny, Kirk.
Specifically named Jesus as the Messiah, or as the Messianic prophecies in the Old Testament. Real quick, who doesn't name by name?
I'll just start telling you in vivo if your joke is funny or not, Kirk, so you can learn humor slowly over time. I'll give you direct feedback.
In the Old Testament.
Well, the Hebrew Bible does not specify who's the Messiah.
So why would it not specifying Jesus then entail that he's not? Just from that, I want
to. Well, the burden of proof is on you to claim that he fulfilled the Messianic prophecy, not on me.
I agree, but your counter argument was, well, it didn't say Jesus in the Old Testament, so that was really the argument you just gave.
No, my counter argument was that it's referring to Israel.
No. I'm talking about you said so hold on. It says Israel real quick. And so you're talking about Isaiah 53:8?
Yeah, you're talking about the suffering.
For the transgression of my people, he was stricken.
Hey, Mara.
Do you refer to a people group as one person?
Royal he.
The royal he. The royal he. Never heard the royal he before.
You can use a pronoun for.
I mean, that is used throughout the Bible. So I think Isaiah 53 is about Jesus, but the fact that it's a singular pronoun, that doesn't really mean anything. Like Israel is called a singular pronoun in many books.
People in a metaphorical way.
Give me an example. I don't think I disagree with you, but give me an example of when it's used.
I'd have to look for one.
Well, I mean, you ain't got to waste time looking it up. If you know that they used a singular pronoun.
Yeah, it's one of those that you see like almost like even in maybe an example. I'd have to look it up specifically, but in Hosea when it's like comparing Israel to like a 304 and stuff. Right,
okay.
It'll talk about like that Israel's like committed adultery and all this stuff, and it'll use singular pronouns.
Because I've never heard.
I have to look up the exact verse.
I am curious though, Confluence. Is there a reason you didn't do a day stream today?
I was just feeling tired, man. I drank way too many White Claws and wine last night. I maxed too hard, and I woke up and I was like not feeling too good. So I kept thinking I was gonna do a day stream, but I was like, fuck it, I can't do it, man. I almost didn't even stream tonight, but here I am.
Because I guess the opposition I have is I've never heard Israel referred to as the he or she pronoun, which I would assume they would use the he pronoun if they were going to refer to Israel, but I don't remember them using like he or anything specific like that.
Here, I'll AI it in the back because I know I've seen it. It's throughout the minor and major prophets, but I'll play the video, but I'll find a verse.
Pronouns like they.
Yes,
he refers to an individual, like she.
Well, God doesn't have a gender, but we so call God he, right?
Is God a father?
God doesn't have God doesn't have a gender. Can we agree God is not? He has a gender.
Why does God refer to himself as a father then in the he? I'm just going off what God says at that point.
He doesn't. Okay, but do you acknowledge God is not like a man in the sense that I'm a man?
No, I don't grant that. I think that Jesus Christ, the second person of the Godhead, incarnated as a man, and he was fully man and fully God. So no, I do think God's a man. But for the purpose of you and I can grant that you don't think that. Okay.
So
and then just the appeal to Occam's razor, the appeal to common sense. Do you know what the problem with this is?
What?
The appeal to common sense is a fallacious argument because common sense.
Okay, so one is Hosea 11:1. When Israel was a child, I loved him.
Okay.
And there's another one in Hosea. Isaiah 49. Before we even get into this, it uses the first person pronoun in Isaiah 49.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a few, but yeah, probably Hosea. Hosea is probably the one that happens most often because it's like symbolizing the whole adulterous thing. Because that's the one I think where God makes Hosea marry a prostitute, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Israel's compared to that.
It sounded something that was right. I couldn't remember it off the top.
Just out of curiosity, Conference, because you didn't do a day stream today, do you plan on doing a day stream during the week maybe to make up for it?
You're working,
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, working.
Okay.
So,
Work
wish I
fluence.
could. Yeah, work fluence. But I might be doing more day streams. It just depends because I don't know. My contract is supposed to end at the end of May, unless there's a chance that it could get like, I guess lengthened a bit. But so then
Cool.
Confluence will not be no longer job fluence until I can find either other job. So I will be streaming either longer into the night or maybe day streams. We'll have to see.
Or I hope it's extended.
Yeah, I'm hoping too. Because I think I got a good thing going, working in the day, streaming at night. But if it ends, it ends, and you know it is what it is. So get those super chats in, you know.
It doesn't exist. It's a fallacy to appeal to common sense.
Well, it was partially rhetorical, but I think there is a grain of truth to the idea that you can appeal to common sense. I mean,
No, the appeal to common sense is a fallacious argument.
Kirk, you really could have had him. If you would have brought up like that Isaiah verse, you could have
Common sense
nailed
doesn't
him.
actually tell us anything. What is common sense? Shared intuitions? That's great. It doesn't actually tell us anything. It's a fallacious form of reasoning, right? The appeal to common sense looks like an argument ad populum. Even if it was common sense, doesn't make it true. For example, I'll give you an example, right? Most people, would you agree with me? Most people avoid snakes
yes,
because there's a chance that they're venomous, right?
yes,
Are all snakes venomous?
no,
Now, it's common sense to not pick up random snakes because they might be venomous. Does it mean that all snakes are venomous?
no.
No, so it's irrelevant. It actually has nothing to do with anything. Just because
Tyler's
most people
trying to
don't like
join,
picking up
but
snakes
says he
because they might
doesn't
be
have a
venomous doesn't mean that all
camera
snakes are
or
venomous,
mic
nor does it mean
so
that
I can't let him in.
all people don't pick up snakes. It's totally irrelevant. It's totally arbitrary and ad hoc. Common sense doesn't actually exist, right? It's literally it's a nothingism. It doesn't mean anything in all actuality.
Okay, so
The best
let me
thing to
ask you
give it is that
this.
it means shared intuitions, but then that doesn't actually really tell us anything.
Oh, there he is.
How do you
Because shared
define?
intuitions change by culture.
Hey, Tyler.
How do you define the Messiah?
Average Kirk
like
Allen
the Messiah?
joiner.
Yeah, how you define or describe the Messiah?
The
Fuck,
Messiah
I
is
joined on the wrong
the person
Google
who
profile. I
defeated
don't
death
have any of my
and
shit.
corrected the fall. He defeated death by death in the resurrection and the harrowing of Hades.
Okay, then why is there still war and bloodshed?
Because the effects of the fall would still be there. He defeated death. Death is the unnatural part. Is unnatural to mankind. You would agree with me that death is unnatural to mankind because of the way we were created in the Garden of Eden, and then because of Adam and the fall. It was not like the fall wasn't like supposed to happen.
The fall wasn't supposed to happen. Yes, the fall wasn't supposed to happen. What I'm saying is that your claim is that Jesus fulfilled messianic prophecy, but he didn't.
Which prophecy did he not fulfill?
You could barely see
Well,
Kirk's
please.
eyes half the debate.
And you and I don't. You think that there's an entailment that he has to have world peace in the first go around?
What evidence do you have that there's a second go round?
I have 2,000 years of church history and the church fathers.
Appeal to authority fallacy.
Not
Just because
authority, it's not an arbitrary authority, and it's not a random authority. You appeal to authority so not all appeal to authorities are a fallacy, just so you know. Like you can have a non-arbitrary appeal to authority.
so if I appeal, but there's a different. Okay, let me say this. We agree that
If you ask me,
Or-
if I ask you, where does your idea come from? That
Oh,
there
that's
isn't
just
going to be,
hurtful, Tyler.
like that Christ isn't the Messiah, or that like that Judaism is true. Aren't you going to appeal to Jewish scholars and rabbis, right? You like those are the type of people that you would appeal to for why Judaism is true. Their arguments have convinced you. It's totally fair when you ask me what makes me think that there's going to be a second coming of Christ, and I say the church and 2,000 years of church history and the continued teachings to the church fathers. That's the appeal that I'm making. It's not an arbitrary appeal. It's not ad hoc. It's not a fallacious appeal to authority. I'm not saying that I'm right because the church says so. You ask me, why do I believe it? Because that's the teaching of the church.
Okay, so do you acknowledge? Okay, let me ask you this: when we're talking about whether or not Jesus fulfilled messianic prophecies, we have to assess which messianic prophecies did he fulfill.
I went through and listed them, but I can go through them again.
Could you list the specific verses? What's beyond the suffering servant? You mentioned that one. Which one? What are these ones?
Yeah, so Psalm 22, where it says, the psalm was written centuries before crucifixion became a Roman execution method, contains astonishing imagery. They pierced my hands and feet. They divide my garments among them. They cast lots for my clothing. And then Psalm begins, my God, why have you forsaken me? Now, if I don't know if you've read the New Testament or not, but the word Christ says on the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me?
Okay, so
See, I don't know what Kirk's going to say, but I never feel super good running this argument because to me that's convincing because I believe in the New Testament, but I pointed those before that the New Testament was written after the Old Testament. So if you don't think the New Testament is reliable or you don't think it's inspired, you could just say, well, they were looking for ways to fit Jesus into this fulfillment. It's like we know from extra biblical stuff that Christ was crucified, right? Even most secular scholars agree with that. But it's not like the dividing his clothes or the casting lots or the 30 30 schmeckles or whatever, 30 pieces of silver. Like a lot of this stuff is not, that's only found in the Gospels, and the Gospels, and it's not even like it's a random thing. They're quoting, like they'll say, like, as Psalm 22 says, like they'll often reference back to these passages, just like Paul does repeatedly. So when they see a prophecy fulfilled, they'll pull it back. So it's like, now, if you believe in the New Testament, then that's compelling. And yeah, this matches up. But if you don't, if you just think they're just writing this story, then it's like, it's not really compelling at all to someone who doesn't believe in the New Testament.
It's like if they believe in it, then obviously they're going to write their version on top of it. So there's going to be some linear to match that prophecy.
Right.
I am curious what Tyler thinks of this. Because someone thinks he's an atheist.
He may be away from the computer right now. I put something back in chat saying that he forgot something, and he'd be right back.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even see that. Yeah, I still have to wait to ask him.
There's two things. So the first thing is, why didn't Jesus fulfill other messianic prophecies?
Like the world peace or the universal language?
Yes.
So I don't think that world peace necessarily means the same thing that you do. So I think that it would. So from my view, and by the way, this is just like off the top of my head, like real quick, just for this. This might not be this might be in contradiction to the church if it is. Sorry, Orthodox out there, but the idea of like,
why can't all the Orthodox do that instead of just talk to our priest? Why can't they just caveat it? Steelborne's fine doing that. Just caveat it and then say, yeah, this is not. I apologize if this is not correct. This is just my thoughts. Feels like some Orthodox are totally fine doing that. Other ones are like, no, talk to your priest. I don't really get that.
As long as man is still going to be man, that's always going to be the case. So like, it doesn't matter what kind of leader you have. There's still going to be people who fight. Now, the beautiful thing though is that through orthodoxy, submission to the church, right? There's not supposed to be this kind of fighting for one. But not only that, but you also have. So from our view, we believe that the law is written on man's heart, right? So every person knows what's right and wrong, even if they've never. So from my view, even somebody who lives in the Amazon knows what's right and what's wrong in their heart, even having never heard the name of Christ. That's like that's a part of my belief structure, right? So if that's the case, world peace is totally possible. You just have to you would have to accept Christ, but
yeah, but Christians are responsible for killing other Christians all the time. So Jesus did not bring world peace. Not
usually amongst Orthodox. Now there is an exception, and I'll grant you this exception, like the Russia-Ukraine scenario. That is Orthodox fighting other Orthodox, but that's not them fighting over like church doctrine. That's a geopolitical issue.
But I'm saying the bottom line is this: either Jesus brought world peace or he didn't, and it's evidence that there's still not world peace.
But I also believe in a second coming of Christ. So
okay.
But
why did? But I'm saying I guess it's kind of arbitrary, is what I'm saying, because it's arbitrary in one sense. Well, actually, it's arbitrary in multiple senses. But something that emphasizes this: he could have brought world peace in a universal language this time, but then the suffering serpent or whatever could have been next time. But you're saying it's this time. Well, why these specific prophecies, but not all of them?
I mean, that's a fair point. We kind of look at what prophecies did Jesus fulfill, and then we assign those are what he was meant to fulfill during his first coming. And then those that he didn't fulfill, we say, well, it's fine that he didn't fulfill them. It's just going to be fulfilled during the second coming. Now, I think that's true, but there is a degree of, right? We do just kind of divide them on lines of if it's happened or not. If it hasn't happened, we just say, what's going to happen? It just hasn't happened yet.
And it's a fair critique to point out. I mean, yeah. I think we do. There is some element of that is happening.
Because I always try to think, like, how would I be seeing this if this was like Islam or something, right? If like Muhammad, for some reason, let's say there's like two Qurans or something, a Quran that came after the Quran, and Muhammad was supposed to, or before, and Muhammad was supposed to, let's say, fulfill these things, and he didn't. And then they're like, well, the reason he didn't is because he's actually coming back a third time. It would be like, okay, well, that seems kind of like hand wavy. Or same with like the New Testament about like how, it has the prophecies. I would be saying, well, the Quran was written before this hypothetical second Quran. And so, of course, this could just be like written in. Like we would all do that. It's the same thing when people talk about like the miracles of the church and stuff. It's like, those are always hard issues because like a lot of religions have miracles. And when we read about miracles in other religions, we're like, we get ultimately skeptical. And we're like, I don't think that's true. In the same way, I think, was it Trent Horn that pointed this out? That Protestants will do this when it comes to like Marian apparitions and stuff that we almost don't even think about that. We don't look into it. We're just like, no, Mary didn't appear because we don't really hold Mary in like a high regard, in that sense, to think that she's like showing up and appearing. And so when even if there's Marian apparitions where like a ton of people have seen her, right? Like I think Trent Horn brought up one that like 1,000 or something have said that, they've seen Mary. and we don't even give it the time of day.
The South America incident, the scene that went down in South America, and then like
Yeah.
he's seen Mary, which ultimately led to like the conversion of like, I think it's like 10. He created a movement of Catholicism in South America, based off of Mary and apparition.
Yeah. Good to see you, Emmett. The church is the miracle. I mean, I agree with you there. What is the thing that is not fulfilled? I mean, there's a few things. The thing that they're talking about now, one of them is like the universal language or whatever.
The world peace.
Yeah, the world peace. It's like there's a few things that I think even this is the stance of the Orthodox Church. I mean, correct if I'm wrong, but that they do think that I know Protestants think this, but I think the church teaches us too that there are prophecies that Christ will fulfill, but it's just going to be at the second coming. But Kirk's argument is that there's a degree of arbitrariness in the ones that we choose. So we'll choose the suffering servant and say that happened, during Jesus' first coming. But then we'll take something like the shared tongue or the world peace stuff, and we'll say, well, that's going to happen in like this messianic era, or when Christ comes again. And so it's not necessarily happening now. Yeah, I'm going to play this. I got to get water, so I can't stop it, but I can hear you guys. Not sure.
It doesn't make sense why the specific prophecies were fulfilled this time, rather not all the prophecies. I'll also add.
By the way, do you want to know where the teaching that there will be a second coming of Christ comes from?
Sure, but if it's in the New Testament or by church teachings, I'm not going to accept it. But sure.
Well, if you want to know why Christians believe it, it's because it comes from the Gospel of Matthew. They will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. This alludes to the book of Daniel. Matthew 25:31. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the holy angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of all his glory. Gospel of John 14:3. I will come again and receive you to myself. Then you've also got the book of Acts. The same Jesus will so come in like manner as you saw him go into heaven.
Yeah, I mean, this is these are all verses from the New Testament. I guess if I don't believe in the New Testament, it's hard for me to take him seriously. But it's like, if there was a second coming, then why wasn't it?
I'd have to look it up, Emmett, to find the exact thing. I can if you want. But Steelborne just even brought up another one, right? Like the Daniel prophecies. I mean, and even in the New Testament, it's confirmed that these things, the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven, right? That's confirmed that is a second coming prophecy. So that would be one that's not fulfilled, and that's even directly addressed in the New Testament. And yeah, so Steelborne is kind of, I mean, I'm glad he brought it up, but yeah, it's another example that I guess maybe works a little bit against him, at least for his argument. But I'll look up the world peace thing.
In the Old Testament.
That's just an argument from silence.
But you're claiming Jesus is the Messiah prophesied in the Old Testament, right?
Yeah, and I do believe that he was the Messiah prophesied in the Old Testament. But do you agree in progressive revelation? God doesn't just fucking give us everything at once, right? Like it's progressively revealed, like through Moses and then through David.
Oh yeah, okay. So it's also in Isaiah. At least I think this is the one. Isaiah 2:4. And he shall judge among the nations and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. So that's something obviously has not happened, and Christ is going to do that, inshallah, but just hasn't done it yet exactly. And I'm fine with that. I don't think that's a problem. I think it's fine that there's prophecies that haven't been fulfilled, but to put myself in the mind of a Noahide, then I kind of see why it doesn't sound compelling to just say, oh, the ones that he has fulfilled these ones, and the ones he hasn't, well, he's going to fulfill next time at a hypothetical future that hasn't been realized yet. I get how that sounds a little, and
starts with Abraham, then it moves, or I think it starts with Noah.
Do you acknowledge there's a clear difference between the Old Testament and the New Testament?
What's the clear distinction between the Old Testament and the New Testament?
How about the fact that they're different books?
Yeah, and so is the book of Genesis and the book of Exodus. They're different books.
No, they're two sub-books within a large book.
No, they're different books that were compiled. They were afterwards compiled into a bigger book.
Terrible, Kirk.
Well, it depends how you define.
The Old Testament is an anthology. What are you talking about?
Book, but I'm saying they're part of the same coherent whole.
Yeah, we think that the Old Testament and the New Testament are also part of the same coherent whole. In fact,
then why do you need two testaments?
Pre-Christ, post-Christ. The incarnation was kind of a big fucking deal. Can you think of any major event besides the life of Jesus Christ and the effects that it had in the world that had more of an effect globally? Like anything actually?
The life of Moses. Because the life of Moses influenced the life of Jesus Christ.
When did Moses live?
Influence Jews. You asking for a date?
Yeah, when did Moses live?
Kirk's just got handling. Kirk is so relaxed right now.
I'm sorry.
It goes off a little bit.
I don't feel comfortable because I'm not like I said, I'm not really observant, so I don't exactly know what the Jewish teaching on this is. And I can't look it up because right now StreamYard's taking up my thing.
Do you want me? I can just tell you. It was like roughly around 2000 BC.
Either way, we both agree Moses influenced Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, whereas Jesus only influenced Christianity and Islam.
No, I think Jesus also influenced Judaism, and it created a whole sect of people who just absolutely would reject God and create rabbinic Judaism, where their whole life is based around saying it's not Jesus, can't be Jesus, can't be Jesus. That absolutely had an effect on them.
Religious Jews don't think about Jesus. Even secular Jews like Einstein and stuff don't think about Jesus that much.
Einstein mentioned. Brief Don
Okay.
Quixote,
So
Kirk.
take it either way.
Do
Religious
it.
Jews or secular Jews, Jesus doesn't come up. So no, it didn't influence Jewish culture.
I'm sorry, doesn't the Talmud teach that Jesus Christ is burning in hell and excrement?
It's referring to a different person than the person you're thinking of.
It's not referring to Jesus of Nazareth.
It's referring to Yeshu, but Yeshu, there's multiple.
That's such bullshit. I got into that whole thing with Jacob too. I think that was the first conversation me and Jacob had. I find that utterly uncompelling that they're thinking of a different Jesus. Like, I feel like it's so obvious. Like, is it possible? Sure, it just says Jesus, but it's like, why would they be so angry at this Jesus that's accepting worship and all this stuff? And they're just like, it's not like they have another Jesus to point to. They're just like, oh, they're just trying to obviously make the Christians not mad, because that's one of the passages that Christians historically and presently really don't like for obvious reasons. So I think that's just some Jewish mind tricks to be like, it's not actually about the Jesus you're thinking of. It's about an entirely random guy named Jesus.
About the other Jesus, Jesus.
Not the main Jesus that all the Jews are very, unhappy with, claiming to be God and all that. But yeah, it's a completely different, unrelated Jesus. It is a popular name, but if you just mention, like, because it's so unpopular, you got to think from, like, if you're writing a book, you're writing your Talmudic little passage, right? You wouldn't just write John if you knew that no one's going to know who this is and it could be anyone. But if there is one guy who is like the default Jesus, which there was, then you could just say Jesus. Just like Jesus is a common name now, right? How many freaking Mexicans are called Jesus, right? But unless you know that if you're writing some book, unless you know that there's some default Jesus other than Jesus Christ, if you just say Jesus, people are going to think of Jesus.
Yeah.
It's like Hitler is the default Hitler. There's other Hitlers out there. There's that guy in that,
God or whatever.
Yeah, but if someone says Hitler, I'm not really thinking they mean that unless they specified that.
Be honest.
Default names, and so that's what I would say to that. So I agree, it's a popular name, but just the fact that the Talmud just mentions him as if people would know him enough to say and write it down that he's burning in hell in excrement. I feel like that's, without specifying deeper, it's like, I think it's just the default thing would be it's the Jesus that everyone would think that they're talking about at the time it was written.
Yeah.
Yeshu at the time. In fact, it's possible.
He's referring to the person that Christians worship.
Christians don't necessarily worship one person, because it could be that Jesus, as presented in the New Testament, is a mythology based on different people's stories. So you're familiar with Christ's mysticism?
Yeah, and I think it's totally ridiculous. There's over 25,000 secondhand accounts of the life of Jesus Christ. There's more historical evidence for Jesus Christ than Socrates, dude.
All based.
Big better argument.
I'm actually not
Steelborne's
sure.
been watching us.
Yeah, he's been
Alexander the Great.
Probably, yeah.
There's only about 12 manuscripts that are either first or second. There's no first-hand accounts. But there's only about 12 manuscripts that are second-hand accounts of Alexander the Great. I think about 25 that are second-hand accounts of Genghis Khan. There's 25,000 second-hand accounts of Jesus Christ of Nazareth.
Yeah, I want a fact check on that.
Yeah.
I would hope that's true, but the 25,000 secondhand accounts?
I didn't think it was that high. I mean, I knew it was higher than other people, but I didn't know it was in the hundreds or tens of thousands.
I don't know how we're getting to that. I'm gonna ask AI real quick. Not that it's the best, but I don't know how else to tabulate this.
We need a Jesus AI.
Yeah. So secondhand account, that would include the disciples and the disciples that they talk to, right? Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, it would
like
be
Polycarp, but it wouldn't be like the guy Polycarp talked to. So it'd be people, because first hand would be like John, second hand would be like Polycarp.
Yeah.
I don't see how it's second hand. Yeah, AI is telling me like 16. Which I think it's probably higher than that, but is it 25,000 feels like a very large number. I'd be curious to ask Steelborne where he's getting that from, or like what he means, unless he's counting secondhand to count differently. Because I can't just see if we're using secondhand in the normal way, which would be like people who know Christ. I can't imagine how we get to 25,000 like extant text or even text that we know existed.
This guy had quite an impact on the world.
Then why are there still reputable scholars who are Christ mythicists?
Dude, there's still people that believe the earth is flat.
Yeah, but these are reputable scholars.
There's reputable scholars who think the earth is flat. You can be a
Name
reputable
one.
scholar. You can be a reputable scholar in a totally different field. Like you could be a fucking brilliant mathematician or a brilliant engineer, but fucking think the earth is flat. Like that's totally possible, right?
But these are reputable in the context of Jesus scholarship.
Okay, so hold on. So what makes them more reputable than the 2,000 years of church history? And then you've also got the Muslims on top of it who believe that he was a real person. So what makes your scholars so much better than our scholars? Considering the fact that our scholars also studied philosophy and they were theologians, right? And this is like something. This was what they actually based their life around.
Quite a few Christ
In fact,
mythicists
Christian
philosophers.
metaphysics and Christian theology is what shaped the entirety of the West in its academia.
Maimonides studied Aristotle. Okay, you know.
Yeah, Grok is giving me 17 as well. I'm really confused with the 25,000.
I agree that they go
So I've
back.
got an answer to the 25, but it's nothing about hand witness or anything like that. It keeps pulling me back to like there's 25,000 Christian manuscripts or fragments of the New Testament written in multiple different languages.
Is that what he's getting confused on?
Yeah.
Maybe that's where maybe he's thinking that number and he's applying it to that. That must be it. Because there's no way you can get to 25,000. There's no possible way from what I'm looking up. Like even if you start counting kind of like fringe things, there's no way. I don't think you're getting past 100 with even like the most liberal estimates. So it must, if the 25,000 is the number of manuscripts that are extant, then that makes sense.
Or it's like fragments of stuff that is a testament to Jesus Christ or mentions Jesus person.
Okay, but those could be like copies of copies. Those could be the same manuscript. Yeah. That could be. Yeah. Is there how many fragments of the Gospel of John do we have? Like a shit ton. Which is why we know the New Testament is so faithfully reproduced, because we can take all these manuscripts and fragments and do textual criticism and stuff and match them up and all this stuff and see when they diverged or when they didn't or when there was a transcription error, or. So that's a cool thing, but yeah, I wish Kirk knew that. Well, I don't want necessarily Kirk to school Steelborne on that, but Kirk, that number should have stuck out to you as odd in the same way it did to us. But I know you're dozing off here,
No, because depending
on what again, I didn't prepare
in the West. And
you're also not. Yeah, you have no eye to use AI to look it up, and you're not. You just seem to be on your phone on StreamYard, so.
I definitely probably would have tried to question the 25,000 and just try and figure out where that number was coming from.
Yeah, but yeah, it's fine. Good to see you, Prophet Muhammad in Bible is Isaiah 42. That's quite the name. But victory of Arabian prophet, Deuteronomy 33:2, as follows was foretold in Bible as Isaiah speaks about the rejoice of Ishmael's son Kedar's villages located in western Saudi Arabia / Medina. Okay, I'm unsure about that. Let me look that up quickly. Isaiah 42:11. I mean, you based your whole username off of it, so I feel like I'd be remiss to not look it up.
To be fair, that could be the Prophet Muhammad himself.
Let the wilderness and the cities thereof lift up their voice. The villages that Kedar, I don't know if I'm saying that right, doth inhabit. Let the inhabitants of the rock sing. Let them shout from the top of the mountains. How is that prophesying Muhammad exactly?
Yeah, screaming Muhammad, Confluence. Come on.
They're doing that Palestinian, the la 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 whatever.
From the river to the sea.
Big Son is saying bad things.
Yeah,
do you know each other? Did you bring this guy on, Keelan? Do you know this person?
Says Rabbi.
I mean, I'd be interested in hearing more, but I don't really see it. Hey, Avram Glazier. Bible is a story of earth beginning to end. Genesis is the beginning, Revelation will be the end. Ask yourself how much of it is left to complete. I don't know. According to the Jehovah's Witnesses,
a lot.
Very little time. It's coming. It's coming to the end pretty soon. But they've been saying that for a hot minute.
Maimonides engaged with Western philosophy, but they were not Christians. So no, I don't accept that. Unless by Western just mean the majority of Westerners. And yeah, most Westerners are Christian, but that's kind of a banal statement. Most Muslim scholars are Easterners, right?
But they also affirm that Jesus Christ was a real person who lived. In fact, there's still many Jews who affirm that Jesus Christ was a real historical person who lived.
I'm agnostic to that question because I'm not, in the sense that I don't claim to know. Agnosticism means lack of knowledge, but my personal inclination is the Christ mysticism, and the reason is because if there were multiple people named Yeshua at the time, and so it's possible a lot of these secondhand accounts are referring to different.
There was
people
multiple people named Yeshua who had 12 people following him around, going with him from town to town.
Are all the different sources mentioned the 12 people?
As far as the Gospels, yes, but I'm not sure about all the different sources. I haven't exactly combed through 25,000 manuscripts.
I don't think the
I
extra
would imagine that the vast majority of them don't refer to the
that's what they're
Gospels.
talking about.
They're referring to different people named Yeshua. A cluster of people named Yeshua.
Hold on.
What are they specific? I kind of missed this. What are they specifically asking? Are they talking about the Talmudic passages that mention Jesus, or are they? Kirk, what are you guys saying here?
He's asking about the fact that I think they're referring to the question whether Jesus existed.
Right, but what's the claim?
Well, the claim is, what I'm arguing is, if Jesus didn't even necessarily exist, he can't be the Messiah prophesied in the Hebrew Bible.
No, I get that, but I mean, like when Josephus wrote in Antiquity of the Jews of Jesus, nobody thinks that wasn't Jesus, as in like Jesus Christ, you know. And same with like the other like there's I get with maybe the later ones like some of the Talmud stuff. At least you could argue that, but no one has argued that like the stuff in like the what's the other main one? The Tacitus, or what's the Roman one?
I'm casting doubt on the idea that there even was. I'm not casting doubt that even they were referring to one person who is the Jesus Christ. I'm denying the idea that there is the Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I know that you said you're agnostic on it.
You also have the Lucian.
You're saying that when Josephus is talking about, he's referring to Jesus Christ as in the New Testament Jesus Christ. What I'm saying is there is no the New Testament Jesus Christ. The New Testament Jesus Christ is a fable based on multiple people named Jesus Christ.
Okay, so it sounds like you're not agnostic as you let on.
Agnostic in the sense that I don't claim certainty about it, but that's what I believe.
Okay, but that's fine. Like that's fine. Most scholars do not agree, even atheist scholars, of course, as you probably know. But the Josephus and it was Tacitus. Thank you, Count Emmett and Tranquilius. That guy's making me tired just saying his name.
But I think you have Lucian.
Lucian or whatever. That's right. Confluence Claude says it's a faith-based reading where the subject is shifted from God to a human prophet, and Paran is associated with Mecca, which is contested. Okay, but it wouldn't be a mainstream thing because the concept of tariffs, that's the best word in the English language, in the Arabic language, that is mainstream in Islam. I don't actually know what tarif means, Keelan, so, but you know. I guess we'll keep playing because I think the Christ is mythological figure has been overblown. And that's why I think most scholars kind of don't accept it. Of course, it's possible that, it's not like atheist scholars think that Jesus walked on water or anything like that. So, I understand that maybe they think that there is some myth building around other things, because obviously the main thing, I don't want to oversell it when I say like atheist scholars believe that Jesus was a guy who had followers and that he was crucified, and that it's kind of the bare bones stuff, It's not like they believe, a bunch of like details specifically, I guess. Oh, the idea that the text has been corrupted over time, which itself isn't agreed upon in Islam, but it is mainstream. I see. The Islamic dilemma, if you will, and you must. The way it works, God chooses one person to use as a messenger in each era to communicate with chosen people before a judgment, e.g. Noah before the flood, most before Egyptian plagues, and Jesus first coming. Yeah, but do you think that still holds true, or do you think that stops at a certain point, I guess? Because I think I agree with that. I'm just curious, like, would you say Jesus is the final one? Because that's what I would say, I guess. but I'm not sure if you're Christian or Jewish. I'm assuming Christian, but you could even be a Muslim, and you could be thinking that Muhammad was the chosen messenger.
Also, do you call me? I do have a question, not related to this though. But is the reason you call me Kirky Boy intentionally to try and get me to identify with masculinity more?
No, absolutely not. No.
Okay, because I don't want to identify with masculinity like that.
No, that's never been. It's just because you're young and your name is Cool Kid, and so Kirky Boy just sounds like a fun thing to say. It doesn't really go deeper than that, to be honest with you. I'm certainly not going to call you Kirky Girl if you transition, Kirk. I'm sorry. I can't do it. I can't call you Kirky Girl. Can't do it.
How about Kirky?
I would try to use your pronouns, but I'm not going to lie. That would be really hard because I've known you as a guy. Like with Mel, it's easy to use your pronouns because I've always known Mel as someone who's trans and stuff.
Well,
but
could you use non-binary pronouns for me? Could you just use they them pronouns for me?
If you were trans, I would try. Right
okay,
now,
well, then I identify as non-binary.
Oh, you think I respect the non-binary? You have woefully misunderstood the situation, Kirk. Young Kirky thing? Is that what you want me to call you?
You could just say you could just say young Kirky.
Only if you use dragon and dragon self as my pronouns. Okay, those are my preferred pronouns. I'm a dragonborn.
You could just use they them pronouns for me. Is what I'm saying.
That's cumbersome. That's like so hard to do unless you don't know the gender of somebody. Yeah, like if you don't know the gender, like if it's, and I got into a fight. I can't remember if it was Tyler or not. There's a few people that I felt like I was taking crazy pills because they were saying that you never will say a first person first person plural pronoun, and that's ridiculous. And I was using an example. This was a long time ago, but I remember it because I felt like I was being so gaslit that if like someone dropped off your package, it's maybe proper to say like, oh, he or she dropped off my package if you don't know the gender. But no one is going to say that. They're just going to say, oh yeah, they dropped off my package this morning, and they just don't know because they don't know if the delivery driver is a male or a female. So people do it all the time, and there's people on panel that are like gaslighting me and be like, no, I would say the postal worker dropped off my package. I would never say they. And then so one of them ended up doing it later on in the conversation to refer to a singular pronoun. I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
I know, but would you use, since I'm telling you that I'm non-binary, would you use they them pronouns for me to respect that?
No, unfortunately.
Okay.
Unfortunately, no. Like I said, it's just incredibly cumbersome. If you legitimately came out as trans and stuff, then maybe I would try, but again, it would be very difficult knowing you as a guy, and like it would be hard, you know. It would be the amount of mental bandwidth it would take for me to even try to say they each time instead of it would be because I know that you're a guy, you know, so it's like.
What do you mean you know I'm a guy? If I identify as non-binary, that's my identity.
I know, but you know what I'm saying? Like if you were, let's say, like if I'm talking to Corpse Grinder, okay, if I said he, it's like I don't know if Corpse Grinder is a he or a she, so it's like I might just say I might default to he because you know I just assume, especially with the name like Corpse Grinder. Although hey, it's 2026, women can grind corpses too, but I might say they, right, because I don't know but I've talked to you, I've seen you, so that's what I'm saying. So it's caused this thing in my head that makes it very difficult to say they because I know the pronoun is he.
You've seen me, but I don't look like I could look like either a man or a non-binary person because non-binary just means you don't have a strong gender identity either way.
I know. I look, but I don't really accept the concept of non-binary in that way. Like I get what people mean. It's not like I don't understand it. I just think that when the way I see like sex and gender, it's like, yeah, you have aspects of yourself that you might think are more feminine or more masculine. And so in that way, maybe you feel like you don't neatly fit into a binary. I can accept that. That's fine. I don't think you need a label for that though. And I don't think like changing the pronouns is like a super helpful thing to do. But it's not like I'm not saying it's like, just to be clear, I guess, I'm not saying non-binary. The idea of like, oh, these gender binaries that are largely built on, let's say, social constructions, I don't really neatly fall into any of these. I think that's fine, but to identify as that, to put a label on it, I think that's where it gets fake and gay. And then to like try to switch off like switch your pronouns over and stuff, then I think we get into a bit of a crazy territory.
I know, but what I'm saying is, if I identify as a woman, then I should put in effort to look like a woman. But if I identify as non-binary, all I have to do is identify.
That just sounds lazy.
It kind of matches up with the Noahide thing, Kirk. I feel like a lot of your life decisions are just kind of like, well, I don't want to have to keep kosher because that's what you said. So I'll just be a Noahide, and it's like,
But
oh, I don't have to
that's
put
the
in the
thing
effort to do
But
vocal training because that's hard, and I don't want to have to put into the effort of like looking like a girl. So I'll just be non-binary and then just call me they them. It's like you half-ass too many things in your life that you say are important to you.
but that's the thing with being non-binary is the whole premise is you don't really have to put much effort into it.
Well, I know, which is why it's kind of like why it shouldn't be an identity. It should just be like it's fine to acknowledge that you don't fit into gender binaries. Like that's fine. Like we've talked about that. And I don't think you need to. I think that's fine. But to put like I don't think I do. I mean, I freaking drink rosé and White Claws and I listen to Nightcore and stuff, but I don't feel the need to then be like, oh, because these interests are not like hyper masculine and stuff. Therefore, and it's like it is true that I don't neatly fit into the social category of like like manliness. I'm not like out there fixing cars and watching sports games and whatever else men do. But I don't feel I can just recognize that. I don't need to say I'm identifying as non-binary and now I'm going to change my pronouns. Like you don't really need to do that. You know what I'm saying? Those things aren't necessary.
That sounds like something
like fake and gay.
That sounds like something a transphobe would say.
Well, can you give a better argument than that?
I mean, I'm pulling your leg, but I do think it is good to be respectful if someone tells you what their identity is.
How so?
Well, what do you mean? How so?
If someone's identity is to be a mass murderer, should I respect them?
You know what I mean?
What's the category error, Keelan? Tyler, your background noise, it sounds like you're inside of your computer fan.
That was oddly accurate.
Hey,
I am not otaku fluence, okay?
Cool. This game's pretty fucking
How dare
dope.
you, Section 230 first time chatter. You say you're not a man versus Kirk. So I'm not saying I'm not a man. That's the thing. I'm saying I don't neatly fall into the typical like gender role stuff, and I'm saying that's fine. And so I guess I think I get what you're saying. You're saying that Kirk, I guess, doesn't want to even be identified as a man. Is that what you're saying, Kirk?
Yes. What I'm saying is I don't identify as a man, so if I identify as non-binary, that's part of my gender identity.
Man, that's gay.
See, but even Keelan is saying you just said you're non-binary. Well, see, but that's what I mean, to take it on as a label and to like change your pronouns. Why not just admit that, like, like, hey, the gender roles we have in society, not everyone fits cleanly onto like one hyper extreme or the other hyper extreme, and just like live your life and just like what you're like. I'm saying Confluence is non-binary. Nightcore makes me non-binary.
But Confluence, if I identify as non-binary, how does it harm you to respect my identity? It's a good thing to respect people's identity.
Destruction of social norms.
Yeah, that'd be one. I also don't actually think it'd be helpful to you personally, Kirk. I don't think I would actually be doing you a favor. And I don't mean it in the same way that other people, when they'll like go out of their way to misgender somebody, I don't mean it in that way. I just actually don't think it would be helpful to you as a person if I was like, okay, I'll start using like they, them pronouns. And I know that maybe that sounds arrogant for me to say that, like, I know what's best for you and stuff, but I would just feel like I'm doing something that might be like wrong if I did that.
What do you mean
like
it's
Tyler said, I would
me?
be adding to the social norms that I think are being eroded. And I don't think that's like.
Well, I'm confused. What do you mean it's not? What do you mean it's not good for me?
I think the whole gender stuff, like I said, I gave kind of the reverse advice of other people that I think it's fine to think about these things. And I understand we've talked about this. There's an overlap between autism and thinking about gender identity because for a lot of reasons, but right, you feel, you hyperfixate at times, and a lot of people just don't give gender a second thought. And I think it's an interesting thing to think about. Like it isn't a conflict without gender talk. Yeah, like me and Ivor, we have talked about gender and like trans stuff probably more than almost any other topic for the course of like years. Because I think it's a fascinating topic to like go into, and that's why it probably comes up on this panel so much. an honorary PhD in gender studies. Shut the fuck up. But yeah, I don't think it's helpful. It's helpful to think about these things, but then there's a line where you, the royal you, can go too far. People in general can go too far, and yeah, start thinking that like it matters in like an identity way. It's like it's similar to like almost like when you have like, and Avery himself will say this, right? Avery is a proud gay man, or I guess a bisexual man. But he's not though, right? He doesn't make it a part of his identity. Whereas sometimes you meet people and it's like being gay is a part of their identity. It's who they are. And with trans, you see that an awful lot, where it's like, that is like a fundamental thing. It will get brought up in every conversation. Every topic ends up being about that. That's their entire, because they found their thing, and their thing is being trans, which is such a sad thing because there's so many things you can be.
Well, I am also I'm also interested in hobbies like physics and stuff, and philosophy and chess.
Right, and those are at least better things because they're active things that you're doing. You don't do gender. You know what I mean? Gender is like who you are and stuff, and that's fine. But like to build that into your identity and like hyper fixate on it, I think is a problem. I think it's. But fine, I'm not hyper
fixating on it. What I'm saying is, if I have an identity, respect that identity and use my pronouns.
You had a dream that you came out as trans to your rabbi. That's how you opened this panel. Okay. So you do kind of fixate on this, right? Which is fine for a time.
I don't. I'm just saying that I have an identity that I've been thinking about, which is I'm non-binary. Please respect that and use my pronouns.
No, because that shit ain't real.
Yeah, I think I agree with Tyler on this. Like, as an identity, again, I think it's just healthier to just be like, yes, I don't fit. Because when I've asked you, you give the same type of stuff that you would talk in the same way I would talk, except in a way that's like you will. The only difference is you'll put stuff in categories that I don't see why you would gender them at all. Because you've said before that like psychology is a women's interest, just because like most people that get like psych degrees or whatever you were saying are women. But like I don't, you know what I mean, like that to gender stuff and stuff like that is stupid. But there's other stuff that is obviously more gendered, like Nightcore, for example. And I don't think there's anything wrong with you having hobbies or interests that if you had to divide them into male or female interests, that they end up aligning with female interests. What I think is the problem is building an identity on that and being like, hey, even though I have a bunch of interests that go this way and this way, maybe I have more interests that lean on this way. So now, or in the middle. And so now I'm going to make people call me non-binary and make people use my preferred pronouns and stuff like this, instead of just being like, okay, yeah, I have these interests. I am who I am. I'm a human being. I contain multitudes. You know, like that should be kind of like the end of it, you know?
I'm not making you do, hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm not making you do anything. I'm just saying that, I would prefer you use my pronouns because I don't identify as a man. That's it. No further explanation should be needed for you to respect my humanity and just accept that that's who I am.
Don't weaponize empathy against me.
Hold on.
This is why people say empathy's fake and gay, Kirk.
Emotional abuse aside, Kirk, it's very important to my identity that I'm right in this conversation. So I need you to respect that. It's not hard for you to respect that I'm correct and stop saying that I'm wrong, that gender identity exists, okay? Thank you.
Anyway, can we get back to the video? Or do you guys make one more point about Christ mysticism? I think we kind of agree that we don't know for certain either way.
Well, I think we know for certain.
Yeah.
So I don't agree with that.
I was going to say,
what you think is 100% absolute certainty that Jesus as a historical figure exists?
I would say yes.
I guess I would. My only thing would be, I guess, yeah, it depends what you mean by absolute. Like in the Cartesian sense of certainty, then I would say no. I'm only certain that I exist. Like in that sense, like, you know what I mean. But if we mean like as sure as I am about like a lot of other beliefs I hold, yeah, it's pretty foundational. One of my foundational beliefs, you know. So it's like, is there a chance I could be wrong? Yeah, there's a chance I could be wrong. But that's kind of like, there's a chance that I could be wrong about like basically everything except that I exist, right? Like, I don't know if I'm dreaming. I don't know if I'm in a simulation. I'm pretty sure I'm not in a simulation. And I would usually say, yeah, I have certainty I'm not in a simulation, but it just depends that there's some semantic overload. If I'm just talking in a normal way, yeah, I'm sure. But am I actually like 100% sure in the Cartesian sense I described? Well, then I would say no. So like maybe like a 99.9% or something. Does that make sense?
It's
I
like
mean,
if
it
I'm
makes
not
sense
certain
in the
about
sense that
that,
it's
I'm not certain
coherent, but
about
I just disagree because many, like I said, reputable scholars don't necessarily believe Jesus as an individual figure existed.
When I was so mad, I thought this was comment was about me for a second. That's gonna be so mad at you. I thought you were calling me an autistic trans dude because I said the night course stuff. We were talking about Kirk. Never mind. Oh, someone got stun locked. Who got stun locked here? Hey, Keelan. Why is no one talking on this? Is Steelborne looking something up? I can't remember where we left off.
I think Steelborne's looking up.
Mm-hmm.
He's on GPT. How do I save face in a
So
debate?
you got like one of the
Against
most
the
famous
Noahide.
non-Christian sources would be Tacitus. He was some kind of like some kind of a Roman. Has writings mentions of a Christus, execution under Pontius Pilate, and the Christian movement. Josephus, around 93 to 94 AD, mentions James, the brother of Jesus, and early Christians, partially disputed due to later Christian interpolations. But most historians think this is at least part is authentic.
That's just to clarify that. So in Antiquity of the Jews, Christians, which is a terrible thing to do. I don't know who thought this was a good idea. They edited in later versions to add basically stuff that sounds like a catechism into Antiquity of the Jews. Because Josephus, he just says that Jesus was the brother of James and that he was like crucified. I think he mentions Pilate, but it's like very kind of like bare bones. But then in later copies of Antiquity of the Jews, it has like this whole thing, and he was God, and he was the Messiah. And it's like Josephus obviously wouldn't say, and it's like such a crazy thing for some Christian to be like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna bolster my claim by editing Josephus's writings and adding something that's not believable at all. But I would say all scholars believe in the first. No one denies that Josephus talked about Jesus. Nobody does. It's not just most scholars in Steelborne saying here. I mean, unless there's like some fringe scholar, but like it's just the other stuff is largely seen to be a forgery, which again, a wild thing to do because it's just like, I don't know what Christian thought that was possibly a good idea.
It's just bad for kind of the optics of it.
Yeah, it's awful. It's similar with like Mark. You ever see like the end of Mark? Mark ends. Now I don't know. There's different theories that maybe it got ripped. Maybe it got like the manuscript got damaged and like the last little thing got ripped off or whatever. But the oldest copies of Mark, it ends with there's no resurrection in Mark. So I don't know if you guys know this or not, but it's a fun fact. It ends with they went and Jesus was not in the tomb and they went away and they told no one because they were afraid. End of book. It just ends. They told nobody because they were afraid, and it just ends. And then, and this will usually be demarcated in most modern Bibles. And then, so some Christian later on then fleshed out the account a bit more at a later date. And then, so that one is like, well, at least it makes sense. But then some Christian went even further and wrote something that again just sounds like a freaking something you'd find in like a catechism. Or like the Nicene Creed or something. And so there's like they'll usually have it in some Bibles, or I think most Bibles, but it'll have like a big asterisk beside it because it's like, it's very much like it's a way later edition. And it's like to think that that's a crazy thing, man. Like it's one thing to edit the Antiquity of the Jews. That's already crazy. But to take the Bible and be like, you know what? Okay, I think this needs more. We're going to add to the Word of God. We're going to add what we think Mark might have said, possibly. That's just like crazy things. I mean, that's the importance of scholarship to like look at the earlier manuscripts and see that, oh shit, okay, this wasn't there. But it's just wild that like that stuff would happen. So
the best thing you can do in that situation is just leave it how it is.
Yeah, like it's crazy to be the authority to do this. Yeah,
they just went in and changed the Bible. That's wild.
You're saying it as if that happens a lot, but this is quite an extreme example. Okay,
that's literally like how Christianity was incepted. Though they went in and took the Jewish Bible and added their own canon to it. They basically, if copyright existed at the time, the Jews could have sued.
I don't think they
would have.
It's not copy for copy, technically.
But yeah, it's one thing. Look, it's one thing to add. Like, I don't get mad at the Mormons that they want to take the Book of Mormon and say, hey, this book too. It's like, I disagree with the Book of Mormon, but that's fine. But when you go into the Bible and
Yeah.
you're changing the text and stuff like that. That's where it gets messed up. That's a bridge way too far. So yeah, the church, the Christians, sure, yeah, they use the Old Testament obviously, and they, but it's not like they went in. It's not like they went into Moses and secretly wrote like some messianic prophecy in the middle of like Exodus or something that wasn't there before. Like that would be troubling if we found old versions that didn't have certain messianic prophecies in them. That would be a very bad look.
Pliny the Younger, early 2nd century, mentions Christians worshiping Christ, secondhand sociological evidence. Suetonius mentions disturbances connected to Christos, which is the Greek word, possibly Jesus related. Rough historical count. So you've got all of Paul's letters, multiple gospel traditions, the book of Acts, early creedal material, Josephus, Tacitus, Philaeus, Suetonius, later church fathers, and more. And all throughout history, there's around 25,000 accounts.
I believe, but I'm saying, how do you know they're not referring to different people with the same name?
I just said I don't know that, but it's pretty interesting. I can grant that I don't know that.
We do know that. We do. I guess Steelborne just said he doesn't know that, but no one thinks that any of the things that Steelborne mentioned are possibly relating to some other Jesus.
Some people do. Some people do. Some Christ scholars do.
But can't we go back and do this with every historic figure?
I don't know if I can name them off the top of my head, but I have heard.
I'm not saying there's not some maybe fringe, but like we're talking like 99% at a just a rough number I'm throwing out, obviously. But we're talking like as certain as we are about any like historical thing, ain't nobody is saying that Josephus or Pliny or Tacitus or any of the other people or that tranquil guy that I mentioned, are thinking that they might just be talking about a different Jesus. If you're saying, Kirk, the thing you're saying before, that maybe when they're making the New Testament, that the gospel writers are themselves maybe combining different stories and stuff, that's at least a defensible Jewish take, but yeah, to say that those people weren't referencing clearly the Jesus that was changing the whole freaking, the whole Near East and changing, infiltrating the Roman Empire and all this stuff.
You're assuming there is the Jesus. You're assuming there is the Jesus.
No, I'm not. You're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I'm saying that obviously at the time of like the 1st century, at the close of like the 1st century, right? There obviously people thought that there was a Jesus, right? Whether or not there was, that's a separate question. So I'm giving you that. I'm saying that, yeah, maybe the Gospels, I don't think, of course, that's true, but maybe the Gospel writers, yeah, there was many Jesuses or many people, and they hodgepodge stories together. At least that's a defensible position. But I'm saying by the close of the 1st century, people knew the name Jesus. And so when you have someone like Josephus writing about Jesus, we know what Jesus he's talking about. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I'm not saying that they didn't think they were talking about the same person, but I'm saying there was no real person who they were naming.
Yeah, I believe in multi-Jesus theory myself. Each one was a different Jesus, and they're just all named Jesus because nobody used last names back then. They just all goofed up, and it all ended up becoming the same Jesus. So
the 99 Jesus
you understand
theory.
what I'm saying? That Josephus may have been. Josephus thought he was saying the same thing as Tacitus, but they weren't referring to the same person.
If you're talking about the same actual person, but in the same way that if you have someone like, I don't know, like Hercules, and you have a bunch of like Greek authors writing about Hercules, they are attempting to write about the same Hercules. They're not confused, and when one is saying Hercules, they actually mean an entirely different Hercules. They're attempting to. Now, whether Hercules existed or not, that's a separate question. So that's
I know, but that's not my argument. That's not my argument. My argument is just that they're not talking about the same actual person.
Okay, and that's what I'm saying, but they're meaning to talk about the same person, whether or not that person
I'm not disputing that in my argument. I'm not disputing that in my argument.
No, don't yell at Confluence. He's sensitive.
You're killed Jesus, the real one.
I'm not. I'm not.
All the Jesuses, Kirk.
I'm not disputing that in my argument. Is what I'm saying.
That's why you're obfuscating and saying Jesus wasn't one guy but many, because your people killed him, and you're trying to say, "Oh, wasn't that big of a deal?"
I'm not.
Kirk, you just want to say we just killed the one Jesus, but there's like 100 Jesuses, so we didn't really have much.
No big deal.
We killed them too, but
okay, confidence. I don't give a shit. At the end of the day, you know what my argument is. Do you understand my argument? Yes or no?
I do now. It sounds a little different than what you're saying to Steelborne. What you're saying now, I guess, but that could just be maybe I'm misinterpreting it. I'm not, but maybe, or maybe
no, I'm 100% Cartesian certain you're misinterpreting it.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's crazy. We use that word very differently as I described. The only thing I'm certain is that I exist. You're 100% certain on this exact thing. That's fine. But
Because
hey,
what I'm
there's no
saying
way to,
is,
I guess, have
they
like a meta
think
convo on it.
they think they're referring to the same person, but they're not referring to an actual person. That's all my argument is.
Okay,
Russia,
yeah.
there was a song in Russia about Jesus too, where like there lived a man in Russia long ago. He's big and strong, his eyes a flaming glow. Most people look at him with terror and with fear, but to Moscow chicks, he was such a lovely dear.
Omega Red from the X-Men.
You know, they said he could preach the Bible.
I think that's
like
Rasputin. I don't really think that's Jesus. Okay.
He performed miracles.
Rah, rah, Jesus Christ.
Performed,
Savior of the whole world.
he performed miracles.
Do you know I listen to a Nightcore version of Rasputin at work sometimes? It's a fun fact.
Okay.
But then again, do you think that people die for a lie? I'm just curious. I'm not saying this would prove it's true, but
Yes.
this prove there's a person
People die for a lie.
intentionally.
Yes. So, for example, let me give you an example. Do you know who Shabbatai Tzvi is?
Never heard the name before.
So Shabbatai Tzvi was a Jewish messianic claimant. You can look him up. He was a Jewish messianic claim who Jews and Christians both consider a heretic. And guess what? People died, to my understanding, died in his name.
Oh, see, yeah. Hopefully Steelborne handles this correctly. There's an easy answer to this. Although Steelborne maybe should have set it up better, right? The key thing is the people die for a lie that they know is a lie. People die for a lie that they think is true all the time, right? Big Soda, I think you knew people that died in 9/11. Two of your best pilots, if I recall.
Like, we lost good shit on that day.
Steelborne already set it up like that. Like this is he already set it up like that. So
But he didn't say knowingly die. Like people do die for a lie.
He did.
No, he
back
didn't.
A little bit.
He said. I think he said the word. The people die for a lie intentionally, and I guess maybe that could mean the same thing.
You think they believe?
I'll give you an example. Do you know who Shabbatai for?
It's pretty interesting. I can grant that I don't know that, but then again, do you think that people die for a lie? I'm just curious. I'm not saying this would prove it's true, but
Yes.
prove there's a person
People die for a lie.
intentionally.
Yes. So, for example,
Yeah. So he says, "Do people die for a lie?" And then he does add intentionally.
But
And so I guess maybe if by intentionally he means well, I guess we'll see if he follows it up with the right stuff, because people die for things that they think. Every suicide bombing that is where people think that they're going to get the virgins, which I know isn't in the Quran. Keelan, don't cuck me like that, but they'd be dying for a lie. Or in the example that Kirk brought up, right? But those people thought he was the Messiah. That's why they died. They didn't die because they knew he wasn't the Messiah. They died for him because they thought he was the Messiah. And so this argument wouldn't apply to like later Christians that were killed, right? Because they're just like when the guy who translated the Bible into English, he was killed. A lot of Protestants were killed. A lot of other people were killed too. Right. It's like, but those people, they think what they're dying for is true. But the weird thing, if we admit that the disciples died, they're dying for something that they know is a lie. They know that Jesus didn't actually walk on water, or somehow they were deceived into thinking this. They know he didn't actually rise from the dead, and they're willing to like Peter famously, right, was at least according to church tradition. I don't know how much like historical stuff there is, right? He died. He was crucified with his wife, so he's watching his wife being crucified, and he could just like turn around and be like, yeah, okay, I'm lying about this. So that's either real commitment to the bit, a little too much, or, he actually believed what he saw. And that would be a weird thing. Either he was like mentally ill and so is everyone else, or right. There's only like a few options that would kind of make sense. What do you think about that, Kirk, actually?
I don't really follow.
Peter was a crazy bastard.
You're like in your example. I'll speed run it. In your example with the other Jewish Messiah guy, right? His followers died, but that's because they truly thought he was the Messiah. They didn't die for something that they knew to be wrong. But the disciples, the direct disciples of Christ, they would have seen him or not seen him do miracles and raise from the dead and do all this stuff. And yet all 11, I was going to say 11. I guess one of them game ended in Minecraft. But like 10 of them, right, died horrific deaths, and only John, lived an old life on Patmos. So like why? So I guess, how do you explain that?
explain that they died these horrific deaths. Well, I'm not saying they died for something they thought was true.
But how? Like, either like, how are you with Jesus for so long? You know the claims of him claiming to do all these miracles. You either are seeing the miracles or you're not seeing the miracles. You're seeing the 5,000 people being fed, or you're not. You're seeing him. Peter was a part of the walking on water. Peter walked on water. So either Peter is crazy, or Peter is then dying for something he knows is false, right? I don't know of any other example in history where someone is like dying for something that they know is complete horseshit, right? Like,
well, I'm saying
of course you could die.
They don't know it's horseshit. They don't know it's horseshit, but it is horseshit.
Answer what I just said. Answer what I just said. How does Peter walk on water and think? Because Peter talks, we have letters from Peter after. We know what Peter thought about stuff. So explain to me then, if Peter is around and seeing all these miracles, is Peter crazy, or why would Peter think this? Did he just thought he walked on water?
So are you familiar with C.S. Lewis's trilemma of liar, lunatic, or Lord?
Yes.
I'm saying liar or lunatic.
Okay, and that's the hard thing with that is if you can apply that to C.S. Lewis's trilemma is in reference to Christ, right? Because it makes sense that one person could be a liar, a lunatic, or a Lord, right? What I'm saying is, for all of the disciples that directly witnessed this thing, how that's a weird mass delusion that they all either had, if they're all lunatics, or if they're lying, then we're back to why would you let your wife be crucified in front of you when you could just say, yeah, I made this up, and stop the whole thing, right? Like, what would be, I guess, any possible sane reason on why they would do this? Or otherwise you're contending with the mass delusion hypothesis.
It could be that it could be that none of the gospel authors actually existed.
Well, that's somebody wrote the gospel, so that's impossible, right? If you think about it.
None of the gospel writers, we have independent confirmation that Luke wrote Luke, or that Peter wrote Peter, or anything like that.
There's no gospel of Peter. We do know that at least for Second Peter is I'll give you that. Second Peter is debated among scholars if Peter wrote Second Peter, because the Greek is quite different. Although I don't find that a compelling argument, because when I write letters,
we don't know. For example, we don't know if there was actually. We don't know if the Gospel of John was written by somebody named John, or if that's just an anachronism.
Okay, that's not what that word means, but that's fine.
That is what that word means.
That's not what that word
You're looking for acronym.
Yes. I think you're talking about an anachronism, right? But that's not an anachronism.
That's what I said, anachronism. I said anachronism.
I know, and that's not what an anachronism is. An anachronism is something that would be like outside, like historically, it would be like an impossibility. Like if there was a reference to a motorcycle in the 15th century, that would be an anachronistic, right? It's going outside of time. Anachronistic, chronos, time, ana meaning like beforehand or whatever. So that's what that means. But that's a side tangent. I can't remember what we were talking about before. Oh yeah. So yeah, it doesn't. The thing is, we have letters as well. So the Gospels, yeah, sure. Did Matthew write Matthew? I mean, I think so, but I understand. Yeah, at least the majority of secular scholars don't think that they were written by the people that bear their nameplates. But I'm saying somebody wrote these, and we have John writing the 1 John, 2 John, 3 John. We have John's disciple Polycarp, who knew John, right? So it's not like, so whether or not John wrote that gospel is neither here nor there. We have these stories, we have these New Testament letters that people accept that they're written by. We have their disciples that they told stories to. So we know that they thought that Jesus performed miracles. Like, no scholar would deny that at least the disciples thought that Jesus performed miracles and that he rose from the dead. And so we're still back in the same thing. It's a mass delusion that somehow they all share, or did they just die for something they knew to be false?
I'm a bit confused, because like, if there is the possibility that they didn't write these things in the Bible that we say they did, then isn't the possibility that whoever did, or the group of people that did, which I think a lot of secular scholars believe it was like a group of people, isn't there a possibility that they recounted the stories incorrectly from these people who told it them, or the people who told it them were being or exaggerating the stories?
Yes, that's possible. But what I'm saying is that I'm saying we don't even have to look at the Gospels. We could look at like the letters that John wrote. We could look at the letter Peter wrote. We could look at Polycarp, and we have his writings. We could look at like all of the disciples went on to like, either found churches or, have disciples of their own that wrote stuff. So even if we completely take away the Gospels and we say, yeah, maybe we can't really trust any of that stuff, we still know from the letters and the disciples of the disciples that the disciples believed that Jesus did miracles, that he healed the sick, that he raised the dead, that he exorcised demons, and that he rose from the dead. We know they believed that. Do we know the specifics? Yeah, if it's not mentioned, then we don't know that specific thing because we'd have to look at the gospel for that specific miracle. But we know that they believe that Jesus was doing miracles, that he rose from the dead, and that he was seen after he rose from the dead. So that's kind of an issue, I think, right? And I don't think that issue is solved even if we don't accept the gospel stuff.
Yeah, I mean, genuine question for my own knowledge, because I'm curious. Do the letters written match like the way the books in the Bible we say are written by these people are written?
Do they match in stories or in tone, or what do we mean?
Yeah, and like style and tone.
It's not an easy. It's not. I guess my best thoughts on this is that it's not an easy thing to analyze because there are different types of literature. Like the Gospels are an entirely different class of literature than the epistles. And so with when I mentioned like Peter, they look at Second Peter and they look at like some of the structure of stuff, and they look at like the language used and the way it's written, and they can think that, okay, Second Peter seems to, and again, I kind of disagree with this, but it seems to be written by someone different than First Peter. So First Peter is actual Peter. Second Peter, maybe someone writing in Second Peter's in Peter's name. But with the Gospels, they're so different in writing that I think it's very difficult to actually know by looking at like John. The only thing thematically, the Gospel of John very much matches up with 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John. But if you actually look at like the structure of the Greek and stuff, it's just very difficult to say one way or another because they're just it's almost like if you're looking at like a letter and then you're comparing it to a poem and then comparing it to a kind of a biography, right? It's like the writing is going to be different in all these cases anyway. We're pretty sure that the person who wrote Luke wrote Acts because it says that. Now, but the question is, those two things could be written because Acts is meant to be like historical, like text. So it's at least more similar in style to the Gospel of Luke. And Luke is the one who wrote Acts. But we don't know if maybe both of them are just claiming to be written by Luke, but both of them are actually written by someone who's writing on behalf of Luke. You know what I mean? So we don't necessarily know. And that's why there is difficulties with the Gospels, especially because, there's a term called the synoptic Gospels. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that's like Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And they kind of paint a similar picture of Christ, and John is kind of like an outlier gospel. And so that's at least where a lot of these things come from, is that if they were written by the people that they say they're written, if Matthew wrote Matthew and Mark wrote Mark and Luke wrote Luke, then you wouldn't think they would have to like almost be taking notes from each other. But a lot of the same stories will be repeated in those three gospels, with some of the wording even being very similar. And it's like, you think of me and Big Soda were both writing a thing about Keelan, we wouldn't have to like compare notes and write in the same style. It seems like there's like this thing called the Q hypothesis, where there's this pre-extant text called Q that we don't have, to be clear. And it seems like Mark used Q and some of his own stuff, and then Matthew used both Q and Mark and built his thing, and then like Luke kind of like used a mix of things. And you wouldn't, I guess that's the Steelman, the side that would deny that they're written by the people they're claiming to be written by. You wouldn't have to do that if you were direct disciples. And you think you would just get 4 completely distinct eyewitness accounts, and we don't really see that.
I have 2 questions. The first question is, was there a strong oral tradition before like everything was written down? And the second question is, where would I find a collection of these Christian hadiths?
Okay, so first of all, yes, it's widely seen that there was an oral tradition that was then codified. At least a lot of scholars believe this, codified into some document that we don't have, called Q. And the reason that the Q hypothesis exists is because it closely maps on to the theory of why these 3 gospels are so similar, and that maybe they're all referencing the same document and then adding their own stuff. But yeah, we know also from Corinthians that there was an oral tradition, because that's the earliest account I'm talking about Christ. And First Corinthians was written very early, probably before the Gospels were written. and it talks about like Jesus, and it gives like a little like catechism inside First Corinthians, and Paul is saying that like this is the oral tradition that is going around in the church. So we don't know exactly the degree of it, of course, but we know there was. Now the second question, do you mean by Christian hadiths? Do you mean like something beyond the epistles, I guess?
Well, I was kind of memeing, but like the letters that you're talking about.
It's
The
not like,
letters are in. So remember you read First John a couple of months back. So that would be one of the letters. So they're in the.
Hold on, the letters are just in the Bible. Like I thought you were talking about things that were outside of the Bible.
I'm talking about both. So the letters in the Bible are written by disciples of Christ, and then Paul is seen as he was seen as the replacement disciple. So it's either written by direct disciples of Christ. This is what it's supposed to be. Again, some scholars disagree and think that like other people wrote like Hebrews. They think that Hebrews wasn't written by Paul. It's written by somebody else. But yeah, so anything you find in the Bible that's a letter is written by Paul or a direct disciple of Christ that knew him IRL. And then to go outside of that, then that would be things like Polycarp's writings that wouldn't be in the Bible. And you can find there's like writings called the patristics, which is, so if you Google that, you could find patristic writings. That'd be stuff like the Didache and the Epistle of Barnabas. So those would be things that are not seen as authoritative, but are still seen as like useful letters. So those would be the closest thing to like the Christian hadiths, I guess, would be like those documents, the patristic writings. So those are like disciples. They're like secondhand. They're like disciples of the disciples writing stuff generally. Or sometimes with like the Epistle of Barnabas stuff where they just weren't really sure if it was like for sure written by Barnabas. So they didn't include it. So yeah, if you're interested in that patristic writings, you can get compilation books that have like all of them in there.
If you write the name out so I can search it up, because I don't really know how to spell it. But yeah, I'm not so interested in the stuff that's in the Bible for saying that the Bible is true at this point, because of I've been cucked with the secular explanation that the Bible has been written by a large amount of people over a large amount of time, and I'm almost entirely distrusting of most churches.
I mean, it obviously the New Testament was written, but I mean that's like a known. That's not like hiding the ball. Like the New Testament was written by many different writers, right? Like, and over a long period of time. I mean, the New Testament was written around probably like maybe like 60, 70 years, like from like the earliest book, which is like probably like First Corinthians or Mark, one of the two, to like the latest book. Like it's not that big of a span. Like the entire Bible, Old and New Testament, then of course you have a massive the earliest is probably like 1000 BC, right? That's probably or possibly earlier, but that's generally what at least I would say 1500, but if you're being a liberal scholar, you'll say 1000. And so then the Bible's either the whole Old and New Testament, 1,000-year gap or 1,000-year time frame, and a New Testament alone, yeah, it's only like 60 years around that. So it's really not that big of a time gap.
it was like 30 years after his death, I think, is when we get the first book.
Yeah. And there's some, I mean, the more conservative Christians think that the whole Christian canon was closed, or not closed, but that all the books were written before the destruction of the Second Temple, which was in 70 AD. I think that's maybe a bit too conservative, but because I think a lot of stuff seems like it probably dates to like the early 2nd century, like 100, 110, 120. So everything was kind of written between like 60 and like 120-ish around there. I mean, give or take some change here and there.
Can we unpause now?
Yeah.
Let me give you an example. Do you know who Shabbatai Tzvi is?
Never heard the name before.
So Shabbatai Tzvi was a Jewish messianic claimant. You can look him up. He was a Jewish messianic claim who Jews and Christians both consider a heretic. And guess what? People died, to my understanding, died in his name.
Do you think they believed it?
So if you mean, do people die for something they know is a lie? That's not true. But for something that is a lie, but they don't know it's a lie, then yes.
Yeah. So I would just ask you real quick. So the martyring of the apostles, do you agree that happened or no?
I'll grant it happened.
Okay. So do you know how the apostles were martyred?
No.
So Peter was hung on a cross upside down because he didn't feel like he was worthy to die in the way of our God. St. Paul was also crucified. I want to say St. Thomas was skinned alive.
St. Paul was beheaded. Not that it matters, but I just want to point that out.
Which one? I'm trying to remember some of the other ones. They died in some of the most brutal ways you could ever imagine. St. Ignatius of Antioch was eaten by lions in the Roman Colosseum. He was an eyewitness to Jesus Christ. If you accept the, if you accept the history there, but
Okay, so they died for someone they thought was the Messiah.
Claude.
I agree that doesn't mean that he is the Messiah, but this would at least give some kind of credence to the fact that this person did exist.
But I'm saying they thought that that the name Yeshu was referring to one person, but other people thought the same name Yeshu was referring to another person.
So you're saying it was just a massive word concept fallacy, and that the greatest religion the world's ever seen, as in most people, like the highest number of people, is all based on a word concept fallacy? You really think that that's the case?
In my opinion, yes.
Okay, so then what would be the argument against that? Anybody that the Jews name as the Messiah, well, there's actually multiple of those people that name, and they're all kind of doing different things. So I could
we'll know the Messiah came because the Messiah will have actually brought world peace, one world religion, etc.
Well, that's real post talk.
It's
We
not
won't know when it happens, but we'll know it after.
Yes, it's kind of like, for example, let's say there's a weather forecasting that says there's a 50-50
Do you know the easiest way to achieve world peace?
How?
Do you want to stop all conflict throughout the world?
How?
Kill everyone. Now there's no more conflict.
That's true.
Now you're getting into absurdities.
What's the absurdity?
He's not wrong.
Can there be any conflict among man if there is no man?
No, but you and I both know that God would not kill everyone to bring world peace.
I mean, we do have the story of Noah's flood.
Killed
Okay,
everyone
do you
except
actually believe that, or are you being
6
serious, or are you
people.
just doing this as a joke?
Do I actually believe in the account of Noah's flood? Yes, I believe that
No,
Noah's
do you
flood.
actually believe God would kill everyone to bring world peace?
I don't think God would kill everybody to bring world peace.
Okay, so what I'm saying is,
But it does the Messiah. But from your view, is the Messiah God?
no.
So then, what's the problem here? The Messiah can just be a guy, and he can kill everybody.
But the Messiah is going to enact God's will.
Okay, so hold on. So if just somebody brings world peace and makes everything a universal language by killing everybody, and now he's the only person left, and he speaks he's the only.
I'm not really sure where Steelborne is going with this one. Because like the Messiah, if he doesn't think God would do that, and if obviously Kirk thinks that the Messiah is going to fulfill God's will, then it's like that would not. First of all, I don't really think you could have a universal language if everyone's dead. I don't know if it really makes sense to say that. So there'd be a bunch of other prophecies that wouldn't be fulfilled that the Jews would not accept. So if the Messiah just came and killed everybody, I don't think you'd be seen as the Messiah. Not only because there'd be no one to see him as the Messiah, because everyone would be dead. So I'm not really sure what he's building up to here.
Language anymore because all the other languages are gone. Now there is a universal language and there's universal peace. How is this not satisfying your message?
I don't know if I'd call that
Well,
a
first of all, there's
universal language.
Wittgenstein's private language argument that you can't have a private language. So I reject the idea that a language is something one person can speak because I think language is inherently social. That's thing one. And second of all, you know that's not what the Bible is referring to.
Language is inherently social. So if no other humans existed but you, could you still speak?
No, not a language.
What the fuck would you be doing then?
This is why you can't read Wittgenstein, Kirk. That's
His name
retarded.
is Wittgenstein, not Wittgenstein.
I don't care. Look, I hate the guy. I hate his name. Even Wittgenstein hated Wittgenstein, okay? But
there's actually a funny anecdote. So one time I was in a trans woman's chat and I was asking her, hey, do you think that Wittgenstein's philosophy would be beneficial for trans rights by arguing that what is a woman is an inessential question because the meaning of words is contextual? And she didn't know what Wittgenstein was. I was like, how do you not know who Wittgenstein is?
Kirk, the vast majority of people don't know, and they shouldn't know who Wittgenstein is, okay? He's like such a terrible to read philosopher, okay? The freaking Tacitus or whatever it's called is fucking so gay, and even he agreed it was gay at the end of his life. And he's like, yeah, I got fucked up on that one. That was like his magnum opus. Then he's like, no, actually, that's kind of wrong about my entire premise.
Well, I was just saying that because I'm super into philosophy, I assume other people also know about the philosophy references that I do.
And that's a very bad assumption that hopefully you have learned. I don't know why you think a random trans person would know about the philosophy of Wittgenstein. But
And she actually pronounced him like you did, like Wittgenstein, even though it's Wittgenstein.
Yeah, I don't care. Okay, you know what? Do you say Wagner or do you say Wagner? Okay,
Wagner.
Yeah. Nobody pronounces
I say
my last name
Wagner.
correctly. Everyone says it in an Americanized way. It's kind of weird, you know.
You should though. You should say names in an Americanized way. I think you know.
I think so too. I agree with that.
Like I say Nietzsche. I'm not going to try to say Nietzsche in German because I'm going to sound absolutely retarded. Even if I nail the pronunciation, I will still be retarded by trying to say Nietzsche as not Nietzsche. You know.
If you say enough German words, you're going to summon Ivor.
That's true.
Right.
I'm knocked.
But I'm just
All
saying
the German
that.
words I know are like Holocaust related. That's the problem. Doppelganger, that's a German word.
How about schnitzel? That's not Holocaust related.
That's true. Now, do you say Wiener Schnitzel or do you say Wiener Schnitzel? Because I say
Wiener
Wiener
Schnitzel.
Schnitzel because I'm normal. You say
Well,
Wiener? Don't even.
No, usually I say Wiener, but now that you mention it, I should say Wiener. Wiener Schnitzel.
No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't.
We'll say, do you say Wagner or Wagner?
Usually, I don't know. I kind of say both. It just depends, honestly. There's some W's where it's like I'll say it, but look, I'm also this is the curse of being an autodidact too, and it's one of the ways you can tell if someone is an autodidact on a subject, which isn't a bad thing. It's just one of the ways you can is if they mispronounce a word that they've just seen written, because then they're right. It's a sign that they're self-taught. And with me, because before I took my psych degree, I would pronounce Carl Jung as Carl Jung. Because I just always seen it written. I'd never heard anyone say it. So I would just always say Jung until finally someone's like, it's pronounced Young, right? And I'm like,
Yeah, when I saw Don Quixote, that was pronounced Don Quixote.
oh, right, yeah. See, and that, yeah, I mean, if you haven't heard someone say this, it makes sense that,
It is pronounced Don Quicksand.
Or when I first saw Jordan Peterson with John Piaget's name, I thought it was like Jean Piaget or something like that.
I admit
That's
for the
absolutely
longest time, when I would see the word hors d'oeuvres written out, I would think it was an entirely different word. Because I don't know if you've seen hors d'oeuvres and how it's spelled. It's like hors d'oeuvres. Like it doesn't look anything like hors d'oeuvres. Same with like potpourri. I thought when I would see potpourri written out, I thought it was an entirely different thing because it's like potpourri or something. Like
there's no way to spell that from the sound itself.
Right, exactly.
It's such a dumb fucking word.
Hey,
Right.
can we pause the video?
Yeah. Okay. Our brief language side quest be over.
Are you communicating concepts, if nothing else, to yourself?
No.
You're not communicating concepts.
No, if there's no other person by which you can judge a concept to be true or false, I don't have a concept.
That's
You
insane.
need another
Kirk.
person to determine if a concept
That's
is false.
literally
Well,
Wittgenstein's
some
private
people
language
live-
argument.
Kirk, can I ask
I know, and
another
that's why that's why he's so stupid. You can
Hold on.
obviously talk to yourself. If everyone else died, you can still have a conversation with yourself.
Hold on. Let's say, well, he didn't say if everyone else died. He said if he was the only person on Earth. I mean, is that the?
Well, how would you be the only person on Earth unless everyone else died? I don't think. I think definitionally you can't be.
Well, you're asking. This is a hypothetical, right? That doesn't have to make sense necessarily.
Well, easily the bottom line is that
Yes, if you were the only person, then I guess then there would be like no language to begin. Like if you were only the only person ever, then
you would have no reason to develop a language to communicate.
Yes, but that's not what
Exactly.
Kirk is saying, and that's not what Wittgenstein is saying. That he's saying that if you're just there's no such thing as the private language, and if everyone else did die, that language ceases to be a thing, which is I think that's insane. Yeah.
You've already trained your brain to think in the language you're thinking in, right? You don't.
Right. Like we instantly know this is false because like most people, I think, will like sub-vocalize. Like I sub-vocalize my thoughts all the time, sometimes out loud. Right. And I'm talking to myself. I'm talking to the people in my own mind. Okay. And I think most people will do stuff like that. Right. So I don't even know how Wittgenstein
like,
finds his
argue
own
with
thing
yourself?
compelling.
well, I like Wittgenstein, and guess what? Religion he was partially born into.
You what?
Well, that's what his religious heritage was.
You're hard to hear all of a sudden.
Guess what his religious heritage was?
Jewish.
Well, his dad was Jewish, but his mom was Catholic.
Yeah,
So
the Wittgenstein kind of gave it away, Kirk.
His dad was Jewish, but his mom was Catholic. So shouldn't you like him because he's Catholic?
What? Wait. Do you think I mean, I don't dislike Catholics, but I'm not like a big, Catholics are fine.
Okay.
What is Catholic?
They're better than Jewish people, religiously speaking.
I prefer Judaism to Catholicism.
You compare them?
Judaism is the best religion, period.
Oh, that's gay.
Yeah, that's fake and gay, Kirk.
That's gay.
And if you think that, you should try being an actual Jew instead of being a Noahide.
Noahide is not.
Look, if you've never been one, you can't claim that it's the best one in the world. Okay.
Yeah.
So you
Noahide-
think, like if I thought Islam was the best religion in the world, I would be Islamic. It's kind of insane to be like Judaism is the best, but I'm picking this like weird the lesser side branch called being a Noahide. It's like,
But
if you think it's the
Noahide
best
isn't a
one,
lesser
yeah.
side branch. Every Orthodox rabbi will tell you being a Noahide is just as valid as being a Jew.
I don't think that's the case.
Ask your local rabbi. Ask him.
name.
I'm gonna ask my local Jewish
Why does it have a
AI,
completely different name?
ChatGPT.
Maybe they're just trying to affirm your identity, Kirk.
That's what I think. Okay, we'll see. No, most Orthodox rabbis would not say that being a Noahide is just as valid as fully following Judaism. Orthodox Judaism teaches two distinct paths set by God. The non-Jews,
Well, what
obligated
about
only to follow the 7 laws of Noah.
What about the open Orthodox?
Exactly. The non-Jews only follow the 7 laws of Noah.
They're only obligated to, but they don't see it as just as valid. The Orthodox consensus, again, this is what I'm reading from AI to be clear, but it says that they're not even has a little handy chart on a spiritual level. It says it's not the same. The number of laws, of course, is not the same. Saying that the Judaism has a unique mission. The reward is different. You get a greater reward if you have full Jewish observance. So
Yeah, you only get half a reward.
I actually did not know there was different rewards, but obligated. The point is, I'm only obligated to keep the 7 Noahide laws, and that's why I keep them.
yeah, that might be an obligation, but like, if you think it's the best religion, then why don't you just like full send it? You know?
Because I don't want to give up pork or anything like that.
I know that's crazy. You don't want to give up the Wieners. Good to see you, Testy. The point of language is pointless without an interlocutor. Yeah, but I'm saying you can be your own interlocutor. If you can't, that's a fucking skill issue. Okay, you contain multitudes, Testy. You can talk to yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's 2026.
That would be fair. He may not be able to.
Yeah, perhaps not.
Do you like know you're about to sin and then you sin anyway? Does that happen?
Yeah, sometimes.
What does that mean?
I think, the New Testament, I think, talks about this, like specifically Paul, where it talks about like the two natures, that the flesh is still there. And so Paul talks about this directly. He said, I find myself doing what I don't want to do. Cursed man that I will save me from this body of death. Very like kind of a, serious passage. And so even Paul had that issue, right? Where it's like, there's, and obviously even in general, right? So it's not like I don't understand what Kirk is saying, because I'm assuming that's why you're asking this. I obviously get, there's ways I can change my life that I think would be better, would bring me closer to God, and I fail to do those things, And I think that's a relatable thing. What's harder, I think, is like the whole religion. If you think that Judaism is actually the best path to God, and then not seeking that path, and then not even being like, look, I'm trying, but I'm failing. Because that's what I would say to your question. It'd be like, I try not to do those things. I find myself failing, and I would just kind of own up to that. But Kirk is like 10 toes down. No, I don't need to. I'm not obligated to do anything more. And I like to eat pork. So, I'm not even going to like try to do that. That's what seems a little more crazy to me.
The bottom line is this. There's no difference between following what I have to observe and not following what... The difference is between was I follow what I have to observe and was I not have to follow what I observe. And I follow what I have to observe, which is the 7 Noahide laws, and that's it. I don't have to observe keeping kosher, so leave me alone.
I know you don't have to. I guess I'm just curious on why you wouldn't want to if you think that that's the best religion. But it's fine. I mean,
it is the best religion, and it's just not.
This is crazy, Testy. The language has no utility. Testy, if you journal, would you say journaling has no utility? Let's say
that's not. That's not Wittgenstein's point. Wittgenstein's point is that if there's no interlocutor, you can't be wrong, so you don't have language, because language means there's a possibility you're using a word wrongly.
Okay, so even with that, so if I'm writing a journal, or like I'm trying to concretize it into that, but we could just say thinking in your own head. Both of those things, first of all, are useful to Testy's point. There is utility in thinking through things in your head using words, and I don't think you would deny that, Testy. Obviously, it's utility in that. And second of all, I can write a journal thing and I can be wrong, right? I can write something down and then be incorrect about what I wrote down, and I can even identify and look over a journal I wrote.
Wrong.
That's absurd. This is why Wittgenstein is stupid. You can Kirk, you journal. If you have ever journaled, you can look back at your old journals and be like, I was wrong. I was maybe coping.
Let's say everyone else. No. First, I'll say why you can't be wrong. If everyone else died and I use a word, I can't be using it wrong. Period.
Yeah, but you can't. Well, first of all, I don't even know. I'm trying to even address that. Because that's a different claim, I guess. Are you just saying you can't use a word wrong, or you say you can't be wrong? Because that would be like the sum total. But like you can. Are you saying that if I write down a statement like that I end up being incorrect about, like I'm like, oh, at the top of this mountain there is berries. I know there's berries at the top of this mountain, and I go up to the top of the mountain, I find out there's not berries. I can't look at that journal and be like, I was wrong. There wasn't berries at the top of the mountain. I thought there was. There wasn't.
Well, because you couldn't have been wrong because about the words you used, because by berries you could have meant not berries. What I'm saying is, because there's no one else to tell you what the meaning of the word is, your use of the word can't be right or wrong.
The use of the word, but like, okay, so again, that's why I'm trying to like tease this apart, because I know what I mean by berries. I know what I mean by top. I know what I mean by mountain. Then I go to top mountain. I find it's not like I don't know what these words. I wrote down something that was factually wrong, or I could think a thought that is wrong. If you just mean, if there's a word that, let's say I'm confused about, maybe the word eloquence, and let's say I think the word means something to be eloquent, and I don't know the difference, then yes, unless I find a dictionary or look it up, or somehow if there's still a way to look stuff up in this hypothetical world, then yes, then it doesn't really make a difference, and it's just that word is fine, and that's like whatever, and I can't be wrong about the word, because when I say eloquence, what I mean is elegant, and I know that, so I can't be wrong about that. If that's all you mean, then sure. But that's a very weak claim compared to, I think, what Wittgenstein is saying.
No, what Wittgenstein is saying is that because you can't use the word wrong, you can't be wrong, because any proposition you make is going to use words which you can't be wrong
No, and
about.
that's a massive leap. There's a massive leap between what I said about the eloquence versus elegant thing, and then saying, because of that, I can't be wrong if I say there's berries on top of the mountain, even if I go up and now I know I'm wrong. I can self-reflect on my thought and realize that was the wrong thought. There's no berries on the mountain.
No, because it could have been by berries you meant not berries.
I know what I mean by berries, though. I know I don't mean not berries when I say berries.
No, because your memory is faulty. It could be that you misremember what your intention was.
That's your argument? You must know you're making a bad argument as you're making it.
No, that's a legitimate argument.
That's a legitimate argument, that if I write down there's berries on top of the mountain, and then I go up, and I wrote this a day ago, and I was fully sober, I might come down and be like, I guess I don't know. Maybe when I wrote berries, I actually meant the opposite of berries. And I was just using, and there's no way to really tell because I'm the only person on earth. Oh no, like that's not a legitimate thing.
Yes, that is a legitimate thing.
It's not a legitimate thing. That's think about that argument off panel. Tell me later if you think that's a legitimate thing. There's a reason no one likes Wittgenstein, okay? This is one of the reasons. It just makes absolutely no sense. What did Testy say? The same reason there would be no such thing as a morality. So stupid. That's such a bad atheist, man. Such a bad atheist. If no one existed, then yes, why write stuff down? Yeah, like to remember, to self-reflect, introspection, a bunch of reasons. What? I feel like I'm arguing. People are saying insane things. Yeah, Testy, you are a coward. Not paneling up after saying all this crazy stuff is just crazy. Kirk is teaching how to gaslight yourself. Confidence, yeah, low key. Yeah, but maybe by berries I meant not berries. Man, I really need to read more Wittgenstein to get some nuggets like that.
You need another person to determine if okay. So real quick, to determine an argument's true or false, you need other people.
Not an argument, the use of a word.
I'm not sure. Well, yeah, I agree with the use of a word, but you said, wait. So do words have no meaning to you outside of outside of people?
Yes, the words are socially negotiated.
Oh, okay. So words don't have any meaning. Okay.
Well, they have meaning, but meaning within a context.
Kirk, okay, I'm stuck on this because there's stuff, and I maybe sub-vocalize more than most people, I'm not sure, but there's even stuff where I'll come up with like a unique term for something that I don't even tell anyone else about. It's just like a way for my mind to like grok something, and I'm like, I'm going to call this thing. And like, and I won't say it to anybody else. That's not socially negotiated. That word has meaning to me. Would you deny that that's a thing that can happen? That I could take some aspect in my life and have some inside baseball inside my own head?
I don't think that
Isn't
would be
that-
meaningful.
But it's meaningful to me when I say that word. I know what that word means, even if no one else knows that word, right?
No, it's not meaningful.
That's not an answer. You're just repeating what you already said. I'm saying, why is it not meaningful? It's meaningful to me. It's a word that I know what it means. I've been telling everyone else it's not socially negotiated. Why is that not meaningful if I'm saying it's meaningful? Who are you to tell me that that's not meaningful?
It's not meaningful because you can't be wrong about it.
First of all, how does that make it not meaningful? If I discover some new plant and I'm like, and maybe people have a word for it, I discover some weird berry bush and I'm like, I'm going to call these rock berries because they kind of look like little rocks. I mean, I can't be wrong about my name, but I'm meaning something when I say rock berries. And now in my own head, when I'm like, oh, I want more rock berries, that's a meaningful thought because I know what a rock berry tastes like. No one else knows I call it a rock berry. I'm just giving it a name, but I am having meaning when I say maybe there's rock berries on the top of the mountain. I know what I mean by rock berries, even if no one else does. That's still a meaningful statement. It's not about the. He's not correct, and it's not about the rules. Testy, get your ass on panel so I can rip your fucking balls off. Okay. Yes, the meaning is private. That's still meaning. Private meaning is still meaning. Why have we cucked ourselves so much to think that meaning only is meaningful if it has like some social fucking value to it?
Because of the idea that you can't be wrong if it's private because your memory could be faulty.
Oh my God, that's just back to the memory thing. Like, that's so insane to think that you wouldn't be confident if in my rockberry example, that I wouldn't be confident that I ate a rockberry yesterday, that like I would need, but then if there's somehow like the argument doesn't make sense for so many reasons. If there's one other person, both of our memories could be wrong. We could both be wrong about rockberries, but you would say, and Wittgenstein would say, because there's someone else, now we have socially negotiated the term rockberry and now it has meaning. But the same memory thing that you pointed out could obviously happen with two people. Both people could be wrong about what a rockberry is, or be wrong that there's rockberries at all, or that they ate them yesterday.
Hey, so if the word you're using in your private language is in English, I feel like that is socially negotiated.
If it is?
Yeah, like rockberry, like there's a reason that you have this meaning in your mind for that, and it's socially negotiated.
Okay, that's fair, but of course I could just pick a different word. What if I called something a galoosh berry? So the berry part, or let's say I just call it a galoosh. I'm just like, you know what? I like the sound of that. I'm going to call that a galoosh. That's not socially, negotiated anymore. And all the same stuff I said would still apply. I just used rockberry as an example, but it doesn't have to be.
The sounds are definitely like those are very English sounds, right?
Well, yeah, but how does that? What if I just uttered a growl and I'm like, this guttural sound that I'm going to create?
Then it doesn't. You can't do it.
Okay, that's a different argument. You're just saying I can't say a sound that I've never heard someone else say before, and therefore it's socially like. I don't even know
that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you just did growls, I think you'd go fucking insane.
Yes, I would, because private language is very important. So I mean, I agree. But yes, obviously language comes from social stuff. If I was just born and raised by wolves, I would not have language. I would have universal grammar, though. Chomsky, the one thing he was ever right about. But I wouldn't have language without that. So I agree. But Tessie, there's no way you believe what you're saying. There's no way you believe what you're saying. I don't believe you actually believe what you're saying. I believe Kirk believes what he's saying. I don't believe you believe what you're saying. It's inherently social. Obviously, just because something is inherently social doesn't mean you can't use it in a private context with yourself. There's a reason that we do sub-vocalization. There's a reason that we journal. There's all these reasons. Yes, it starts, obviously, the reason we have language is social, but just because something has its main function is a social function, it doesn't mean it can also have a private individual function as well. It obviously can. Yeah, they don't need to. It's still, I don't know why you're acting like meaning something's only meaningful if it involves other people. Why can't galoosh be meaningful to me? I know that this berry, I don't know what to call it. I call it a galoosh. I know what I mean. When I feel I'm craving galooshes, I know exactly what I'm meaning. That's meaningful. It doesn't matter if anyone else can verify. Why do I need someone else? Why would I cuck myself like that to need some other person to verify if by a galoosh I'm saying something correct or not? There's no need for it. It's still meaningful. I don't know why I would need, if one other guy was there, all of a sudden that becomes meaningful. But if it's just me, it's not meaningful anymore. As if meaning somehow springs up magically when there's one other person in the room. Like I think that's a crazy position to hold.
Anyway, can we get back to the video?
See, Kirk is keeping us on track.
Let's get back to this. You keep bringing up Occam's razor, right? You realize that like just appealing to Occam's razor doesn't actually disprove my argument that like it's totally internally consistent and coherent for there to be a second coming of Christ, right?
It makes it less probable because Occam's razor says that it's more likely or more probable, which is not worth.
No, Occam's razor states that the answer that has the least amount of assumptions is usually correct. That's what Occam's razor actually directly says.
What does usually correct mean? More likely or more probable?
Sure, I can even grant it's more probable. The one that makes the least amount of assumptions. From our view, if God is saying, I will come back, what fucking assumption am I making there?
He will come back one time.
I'm assuming that God's not lying to me.
He will come back once. When he says come back, he doesn't say come back twice. Come back is
he says
one time.
Before the ascension, he will come back. Before he ascends into heaven, from our view, that he will come back. What assumption am I making? Other than what? God didn't lie to us?
You're assuming he's coming back twice, not once.
No. He'd be coming back once. He already came. He'd be coming back for the second time.
The Messiah? Are you referring to the Messiah or God?
The Messiah is God from my view. Jesus Christ is God. He incarnated.
Well, then we get into a vicious circular. Okay, but does the Bible is a biblical verse you're referring to God or referring to the Messiah?
It's referring to Christ, who claims to be the Messiah.
It's referring to, but it's referring to Christ.
It's actually Christ talking. It's actually Christ, according to the gospel. It's Christ speaking.
Is this a verse?
I love that I gave galoosh meaning. It didn't have meaning before, but now that I've said it, now all of a sudden it has meaning. It's crazy.
Okay, I don't grant your interpretation of the Old Testament. Where did that get us? I don't grant any of your interpretations of the Messianic prophecies because you don't have anything to appeal to outside of your own individual interpretation. If everything's to my own individual interpretation, well, my interpretation is just as good as yours, and now we're stuck in relativism land. Anything else?
I mean, honestly, I don't know where Kirk is going with this at all about the Messiah coming back. I don't even know what the point of that is. Obviously, the Messiah is coming back one time. The second coming is the second. He already came once. I'm not sure if I'm misunderstanding Kirk. I don't really get the point of what Kirk's even saying here.
That when we're talking about what's prophesied in the Hebrew Bible, you can appeal to the New Testament?
Yes, because I think the New Testament is the accounts of the fucking prophecies being fulfilled.
That seems circular.
What's the circle?
The circle is...
Okay, hold on. So the prophecies of the Old Testament, are they describing a future event?
Yes.
Does the New Testament take place after the Old Testament?
Yes.
So in the future?
If the bottom line is this. It's
not a fucking circle anymore now because it fucking makes sense. It's linear, not circular.
If the Hebrew Bible was saying the Messiah was going to come twice, the Hebrew Bible would have fucking said that.
Argument from silence, not an actual argument. It's a fallacious argument.
It's not a fallacious argument.
It's an argument from silence.
It is an argument from silence.
Where does the Hebrew Bible say Hebrew Bible?
I don't think it does.
Where does the Hebrew Bible give you a list of the books that should be in the Hebrew Bible?
I don't think it does.
It doesn't. So how do you know that you have the right books in the Hebrew Bible?
Because of oral tradition.
So because of oral tradition. Okay, great. But because it's not in the Bible, therefore I can call it into question now because it's not specifically stated in the Bible. This is why it's an argument from silence. Just because something's not specifically stated doesn't mean that it's not there, or doesn't mean that it's even true.
Yeah, but
like you were using earlier.
He's saying that there's nothing that either tells you what books should be in the Bible or says there should be an anthology at all, right? We just have 39 books that we have at some point in history put together, and that it doesn't tell you to do that in any individual book. It doesn't say which book should be included. It's not like there's a 40th book that says, oh yes, put all these books into what we call the Hebrew Bible, right? So that's the Steelborne's port. We get that outside of the Bible. So in the same way, the Bible itself doesn't tell us to make it into an anthology, but Kirk would say that the Old Testament is an anthology, right? Or the Hebrew Bible, as you'd call it, or the Tanakh, or whatever the fuck. In the same way that, yeah, it's an argument from silence, just because it doesn't specify that there's two comings of Christ, that therefore there can't be. Because we obviously, Kirk acknowledges that there's stuff that we get outside of his Bible, and Steelborne is stuff that he gets outside of his Bible. They both use tradition to build on the building blocks of their respective Bibles. So they're both kind of stuck in the same thing.
Well, in Isaiah 53 or Isaiah 56, I can't remember. I'm not a Protestant, okay? I can't remember verses like that, like the numbers. But you're saying it doesn't say Jesus specifically. Therefore, Jesus isn't the one being referenced in that prophecy.
Okay, do you acknowledge it's a possible interpretation to say that it's referring to the nation of Israel and it's using a royal he?
Yeah, what the fuck is the royal he? I've literally never heard anybody say that. The royal he.
Metaphorical language, just using a metaphor of he to refer to like the masculine nature of Israel.
That seems totally incoherent to me.
So it's not even a possible interpretation. It is literally impossible.
I can grant that you could interpret it that way, but it doesn't make any sense for me. For the transgression of my people, he was stricken. And this is, if I remember correctly, it is Isaiah that's the one talking here, right?
Well, it's God. It's
I could be wrong about that. Like, I'm
God
totally
talking.
gonna grant that. I'm pretty sure it's Isaiah the one talking in Isaiah 53:8. And he's talking about the transgressions of the people of Israel and referring to the Messiah.
It's
The
God
Messiah
talking.
will be for the transgressions of my people. The Messiah was stricken.
Steelborne does need to be a Protestant so we can know these verses
Are
more.
you familiar with the difference between Messiah ben Yosef and Messiah ben David?
I don't know those two terms mean specifically.
Hey,
Okay, so
Rage.
Messiah ben Yosef refers to the nation of Israel. Messiah ben
This
David
is
who will
true,
bring
Keelan.
about the coming of the Messiah.
Oh my God, that's a holy shit. That would be such a good idea for like a weekly show. You have like two people at debate and they have to do the debate sober, and then like the next day or the next week or whatever, then they have to do the same debate again, but both be hammered. Oh, that'd be fire. That'd be so fire.
Well, which one do you do first? You do drunk first, so that way they can see their embarrassment and then fix their arguments, or you do sober first?
What's the better order?
'Cause I think drunk then sober. Because if you're drunk, then you can like humiliate yourself, realize where you fucked up, and then come back in and try and fix your mistakes. Being sober.
But then it's like, it's like, well, maybe it just went bad because you're drunk and it would have. But if you do it the other way, then it's like, oh, maybe I don't know. I could see it working both ways. What do you think, Keelan?
Well, I think drunk first because like I don't think alcohol necessarily makes you dumber unless you like drink a shit like a lot and you're like dying, but it does remove your inhibitions. So the drunk one would be way more unhinged, and then the people who are really interested could tune into the sober one because that one would be probably more courteous, I would assume.
It could be that, or it could be, it could be what Testy's saying. Because you can't. The problem with that is you can't reverse the order. You can't unless you have people sobering up, but that would just be hellish, I would think. But yeah, you start sober, you have the debate, and then you have to like take like whatever shots of whatever you're drinking, and then you restart the debate, but then as you're drunk. That's fun. I have to do that. I have to find IJ would definitely do that. I got to find somebody else. Oh yeah, sober drunk debate. That's a fucking concept. No one steal that. This is I'm copywriting this. I will get Kirk's lawyer friends to sue you if you steal this. Okay, my idea. I stole from this. Or from who said this first? Oh no, from Keelan. Yeah.
A better concept would actually be like debate high and then debate not high.
Yeah, I don't know what the problem is. The high thing, I don't know if because it's not legal in every place, so I don't know if YouTube would like if I was like telling people to but I think I could tell people, yeah, okay, we're gonna do this thing where you get drunk and then the high thing, I'm not sure if I could. I kind of could leave it open and say, look, like Tyler, he gets high, so maybe he could just get high if he wants. But that's such a good idea. Thank you for that, Keelan. That's a fucking incredible idea. That's $100 idea right there.
Okay, the Davidic Messiah, got it.
And then Messiah ben David is the Davidic Messiah who will actually bring world peace. So Messiah ben Yosef will bring about the conditions that will lead to Messiah ben David.
So the Messiah is an entire nation of people?
Yes, Messiah ben Yosef is.
And where's that nation?
Or wherever Jews in the world are. But it'll be during the end of days when the Messianic period will be actualized, it'll be in Israel, the country.
So you think the nation state that was founded in 1948 is the reference being made in the Old Testament?
To where the Messiah is going to be out of, yes.
And how do you know that the nation state of Israel is the same Israel of the Old Testament?
Well,
Israel was a people group, and at one point they were Egypt.
Kirk.
Israel. Okay, do you acknowledge that Israel refers to Jews?
Not from my view, no.
Okay, well, Israel, in my view, refers to Jews.
That's right. Israel, in my view, is the body of believers. In the Old Testament, they were called Jews. In the New Testament, is the church. The church is the new Israel, from my view.
I mean, you can argue that, but it doesn't make any sense because Jews are a nation, not like...
Jews are a people group, and depending on how you define them, right? So Rabbinic Judaism didn't start really till after the destruction of the Septic.
Okay, let me ask you this. Do you acknowledge that I consider Freud and Einstein Jews, even though they're atheists? Do you acknowledge I consider them Jews?
Yeah, ethnically Jewish, sure.
Okay, what I'm saying
Also,
is,
I don't even know what the fuck a Jew is. Like, I don't even know what the term means anymore, and like especially in regards to Judaism, because like you can be an atheist and ethnically Jewish. You can be ethnically fucking. You can literally be ethnically fucking blue-eyed, blonde-haired German, but convert to Judaism, and now you're also Jewish. And then there's also like fucking. There's different like there's totally different categories and distinctions, right? Like none of them like okay. Apparently, I have partial Jewish in my history. There's a potential. He says the potential is partial Jewish in my history. So do I?
It's a wild thing to admit, Steelborne. Wow. Wouldn't catch me admitting to that, but you know, hey,
All
all
right,
nice
the categories, but you know.
Jew on Jew violence.
Oh shit! I was gonna say something more substantive, but I can't remember what it was now because I made that joke.
Have a right of return to fucking Israel? I don't know, right? Even though I totally reject Judaism.
the bottom line is this: when we're talking about what Israel is referring to, in my view, and you can argue against this, it's referring to the nation.
Dude, Israel
of
was a people group, right? Israel was a people group of believers. Even in the Old Testament, it was a people group of believers. Still,
Why does Kirk talk like Joe
when
Biden?
Israel, the believers, the people who were supposedly worshiping Yahweh,
Talk like Joe Biden.
The bottom line is this. Look. The bottom line is this.
It's true.
started to transgress the law.
Just a sec, Steelborne. Let him finish what he was going to say there.
Yeah, just the bottom line is that, in my view, Israel is referring to the nation of the Jewish people that were revealed the Torah, and so in my view, the Messiah referred to in Isaiah 53 is the Jewish people, and the Jewish people are the nation of Israel. Okay, this self-accepted in Isaiah 53 is the Jewish nation. The Jewish nation will be in the land of Israel, under a Jewish state that is sovereign, and that will bring about the Messiah ben David, who will bring world peace. World peace was not brought by Jesus, therefore Jesus is not the
need that
Messiah.
red heifer,
And I don't accept appeals to the New Testament that there's going to be a second coming of the Messiah.
It'll
because
come
it involves
eventually.
more assumptions than is necessary given the Hebrew Bible's actual wording. Now, if you have some sort of
Hold on, if you agree that progressive revelation is possible, why couldn't revelation continue past
it's
David?
possible, but I'm saying it's less likely because of Occam's
Why
razor.
is it less likely? What is it?
Occam's razor. That's why.
How does it even? That doesn't even follow. So hold on. How do we know that the Hebrew Bible doesn't actually end after Moses? Why is David and Solomon and all those people? Why is that actually? Why is that so progressive? How do we know he didn't end with Moses when he gave us 613 Levitical laws?
Occam's razor,
Or
right?
however
That would be
many there are,
the
I remember,
simplest
something like
thing.
How come the revelation didn't end there?
That's the thing, is that we have an oral tradition.
So appeal to antiquity. What are we doing here?
Okay,
If I
fine.
agree, but what's wrong with me granting my oral tradition?
Because the Jewish
If I
people
grant you your oral tradition, why can't you? Why would? What on what basis do you then have to not grant me my
Yeah,
oral
we're
tradition?
kind of cooking now.
because the Jewish oral tradition is Jews are the one who gave rise to the Bible, so they get the right to interpret it.
No, they gave right. You don't understand what the actual view of the Orthodox is. The Old Testament Jews were us. They were Orthodox Christians. They still practice the liturgy and every part of it, right? The Old Testament Jews were us. We're the continuation of the Old Testament Jews, not you guys. That's our view, right? So how are you going to say? And by the way, rabbinic Judaism totally fucking changes and fucking from the religion of the Old Testament in multiple different ways.
Okay, then why don't Christians keep kosher,
Rage,
for example,
rage.
or keep Shabbat?
Because the old covenant laws the old covenant was fulfilled in Christ.
So you're Jews who don't actually keep the Jewish laws.
Do you keep kosher?
No.
So then what? You're not a Jew?
Well, Einstein
But
didn't
that's
even
standard
believe.
work.
Einstein didn't even believe that Torah was revealed by God. He was still part of the Jewish nation. But that's the thing is, I'm saying Judaism is a nation. You're saying it's a community of believers. So from my perspective,
Judaism is a religion.
well, it's not really just a religion. It's also a nation, because you can have an atheist Jew.
I'm sorry. Hold on. Is there a distinction between being Jewish and practicing Judaism?
Hey, Chief.
There's two senses in which you can use the word Judaism. There's a sense of Judaism as the nation, and there's a sense of Judaism as a religion. But fine, we'll just use the sense of Judaism as a religion. Take it either way. There are people who are Jewish who don't practice Judaism.
Yeah. Okay. I agree with that.
Okay, and then so what I'm saying is,
So are they no longer Jews if they don't keep kosher?
No, they're part of the Jewish nation. That's coherent because we're a nation. But if you say we're a religion, then that is
Okay,
not.
so hold on. I just have a real quick question for you. Hypothetically, let's assume that Israel got taken over by fucking Russia or something, right? No more Israel. It doesn't it's no longer a sovereign nation. Who are the Jews now?
The same Jews that existed before Israel, so say, was created.
So then what the fuck does the modern nation state of Israel have to do with anything?
Well, in my view,
And by the way, real quick, I have one more
Testy,
follow-up.
you could be
in
a
Exodus,
Noahide,
when they were in the deserts of Egypt, was Israel in Egypt?
but you got to get circumcised.
they were Jews, and so yes, they were Israel and Egypt.
So Israel was in Egypt, so you had a nation in a nation?
You had a nation in a country. Well, okay. I'm a Jewish American. My nationality is Jewish, and my nationality is American. Is that a contradiction?
To say that your nationality is Jewish and your nationality is American? Yeah, that seems a bit of a contradiction. You can say your ethnicity is Jewish.
Okay, so there's no such thing as an Italian American then, because there's no.
They're ethnically Italian. They're of the people of Italy, but they live in America and they were born and raised in America, so their culture is American. Where's the contradiction there?
The bottom line is, okay.
Right? I'm Scottish. I'm Scottish American, right? My ancestors came from Scotland. I'm a direct descendant of Robert the Bruce.
So you're a Scottish national who's also an American national.
I was born and raised in America, just like my fucking parents were. We're Americans. I have Scottish heritage.
Why are we confusing
My
nationality and
nationality is
ethnicity here,
American.
Kirk?
My
What's happening?
If you want to give me ethnicity, be European.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay. The bottom line is,
Jewish is not a
if
nationality.
you actually believe that you're the people spoken of
Right,
in
you
the
could
Old
be
Testament,
Israeli, you could be Jewish, you could be both.
Well, Jewish is is basically what I wouldn't even say culture. What is that?
I mean, it's an ethnicity, right? If you're Ashkenazi or Sephardic or whatever the other one is.
It's an ethnicity or some sort of like related, something related that it doesn't. You don't have to be part of the Israeli nation to be Jewish. What?
I'm not laughing at you. I'm not laughing at you.
That's fine. I just.
I'm
Are we
not
laughing at this?
Yeah. Very
That is good.
I have a question. So, Judaism is different from Christianity, as I understand it, in that like Judaism does define how your society works, whereas Christianity does not do that. So, could you be a Jew who follows Judaism but does not believe in God?
Yes. That's what a lot of.
Yes, I don't
a
know.
lot of Jews are like that, right?
I mean,
you're
you
not-
probably
they're not really
follow
following-
some
They're not like
rules, but not
following
all.
Judaism, right? I guess it's like, how are you praying to something that you don't believe in? You know what I mean? You could like keep kosher, right? There's some things you could follow,
Well,
like
so-
the more like boots on the ground laws.
Yeah. I guess I'm saying like follow the laws of Judaism without believing in God, which I think would make them, as we would determine it, a nation, unless we're including like the land a nation occupies as part of that nation, which I don't think that is necessarily the definition of a nation.
I don't know. Would before 48? Would you say there was I would say they were a people group, but I don't know if I would say that they were like a nation.
This is as far as like I know about Judaism. It's kind of that, side quest.
Yeah.
Any Jews on the panel?
Testy's trying to freaking bait me.
I'm half Jewish.
and my grandpa's Jewish.
Well, it's the weird thing with the Jews, right, is there was like so many diasporas, right, where it's like, so they were kind of just like living everywhere, right? Whereas like in other situations where before we like called things nations and stuff, or the concept of like a modern day nation state, yeah, I think it makes sense to still be like, this is a nation because there are people that are living together, at some arbitrary number that we're going to call, this is a nation. But if it's a disparate people group that is kind of like divided across like a large area of land, like the Jews were, then yeah, they're a Noahide Matic. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know if I would say can you be a nation if you are living in other people's countries and you're like all divided?
Would you consider, I guess all divided kind of changes it, but would you consider like the Mongolians to have been a nation?
Yeah. But that's because, they weren't divided. They were like, there was some like semblance of like, this is, this big group of people is like sticking together and has this shared culture in this like temporal location. Even if it was, even if it's a nomadic people, like obviously some of the, the Native Americans and stuff that would like travel around and stuff, I would still say that is like a pre-nation kind of nation thing. But yeah, that's because even though they're nomadic, I don't think the land is required, but I think you have to be somehow connected. You can't be just like disparate and just like spread across, a bunch of different countries. But it's probably just maybe a definitional thing, I guess.
All right, can you pause? Then why don't you keep
Just waiting for Kirk to tell me to unpause.
We're the only ones who still do the energy. We still do the same practices described in the Old Testament. The fucking way of the altar and the fucking
the altar and all that was meant for when there's a temple.
Yes, we think that the temple is not located in just Jerusalem, by the way, but also we still have the fucking church in Jerusalem. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre is still there.
Why don't you keep kosher?
They were for a time before the 1000 BC, and then there was a kingdom,
like,
right?
you want me to pull up the
That
actual
was on a
answers in the church?
specific spot.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Anything.
Is denied claim your boss?
According to the Orthodox Church, the Church is the fulfillment of Israel. The new covenant fulfills and transforms the old covenant in Jesus Christ. So Orthodox
That
Christians
checks out.
the continuation of the people of God, but not as remaining under the ceremonial requirements of the Mosaic laws. The key distinction is usually made between the moral law, the ceremonial law, the civil/national law. Kosher regulations fall under ceremonial covenantal practices that's tied specifically to Israel under the Mosaic covenant, temple worship, ritual purity, and separation from the nations. The New Testament repeatedly teaches that these distinctions were fulfilled in Christ and are no longer binding on the church.
Okay, so you don't think kosher is binding then?
Not anymore, no.
Okay.
Kosher would have been a ceremonial law.
How do you explain
It's not actually more immoral to not eat or to not keep kosher from our view.
How do you explain the fact that it says in the Torah that the Torah is an everlasting covenant?
The covenant wasn't replaced; it was fulfilled.
Everlasting means it doesn't end, right?
Yes. So the moral laws of the Torah, those are still. I think those are still being practiced. Those are still taught.
The covenant includes the totality of the covenant. That includes Shabbat and kosher and all that.
Those were ceremonial laws. Those were not moral things. Like it wasn't like a.
Are they part of the covenant? Are they part of the covenant?
I would
They're
say
ceremonial
no.
laws. They're not
Are they
moral.
part of the covenant?
Yes, they're part of the covenant. But I never said that the
Okay.
covenant was fucking
I
abandoned.
don't
It was
think they're part of the
fulfilled.
covenant.
So they're part of the covenant, but they don't apply?
The law was holy, given by God, and pedagogical. It prepared Israel for Christ. The dietary laws taught holiness, separation, discipline, and symbolic purity. But the church believes these shadows reach fulfillment in Christ. This is similar to animal sacrifice, temple rituals, Levitical priesthood, and circumcision. Orthodox Christians do not rebuild the temple and resume animal sacrifices either.
With your heels
because those
on,
are seen as
Keelan.
fulfilled. Orthodoxy does still have food rules, though. Orthodoxy fasting is ecclesiastical, spiritual, and ecclesiastical, not ritual purity law. For example, avoiding meat during Lent is not because meat is unclean. It's spiritual training. It's fundamentally different from kosher categories.
So, okay, it's keeping kosher is part of the covenant, and the covenant is everlasting. So, therefore, keeping kosher is everlasting.
Kirk, is this timer at the bottom? Is this the end? Because I have like a hard out at a certain point in like the next like 5 to 10 minutes. But I want to finish where we.
We'll just keep watching until you have a hard out.
Okay.
just cut the stream right when it
The
crashes.
dietary, the dietary laws were not like the same as the moral
You
law.
still
They were in a
pull
different
your part out.
category.
So, they were not part of the everlasting covenant.
Are you wearing? Okay, hold on. Is your t-shirt and pants made of the same material?
No.
So you're mixing fabrics?
Wait, by t-shirt and pants? Mixing fabrics is you can't have the same garment and mix wool and linen together. These aren't wool and linen; they're both cotton.
They're both cotton.
Well, my shirt's cotton.
Oh,
I don't know
tried to
what
get
it's
them.
not wool and linen.
So if I wear, if I wear a wool sweater and like pants with cotton lining in them, have I committed a great sin?
No, it's only if the wool and linen are mixed in the same garment.
It's a winter suit.
So it's part of the same. No, but it's part of the
All
same.
right, hold on. I'm gonna
garment.
make a winter coat, and half of it's gonna have linen, and half of it's gonna have wool.
That's a sin if a Jewish person wears that, but if you're not Jewish, so it doesn't apply to you.
Wait, you don't even have universal laws?
613 commandments apply to Jews. They don't apply to non-Jews. Non-Jews have the seven
Hold on,
laws
is it
of God.
immoral for people? Is it still immoral for me to do, or
Is it the,
what's
it's
the moral distinction between a Jew and a Greek?
If a Jew eats pork, that's bad. If a Greek eats pork who's not Jewish and the Greek's not Jewish, then that's not bad.
So then God's law is not universal.
No, it's not. Not all of
God's
it.
law is not universally binding. So,
Yeah, I
hold on.
think
So it's
that's
not
what
immoral
he
for me to
said,
stab
yeah.
people in the face.
It is immoral because that's one of the 7 laws of Noah. There are 7 Noahide laws.
Well, hold on a sec. But I'm not a Jew.
Yes, and this the Noahide covenant, the covenant with Noah applies to non-Jews.
Oh, so that one applies to non-Jews. What about the Ten
yes,
Commandments under Moses? Right. So is it okay to covet my neighbor's wife?
coveting, as far as I can tell, is not one of the 7 Noahide laws, so it's not against it for.
So I can violate the Ten Commandments, and that's just fine, right?
Depends on the commandment. If it's part of the Noahide covenant, then it's wrong. But anyway,
So hold on. So worshiping demons is fine.
no, because that's part of worship. That's against the prohibition against idolatry, and so that's part of the Noahide covenant.
All right. So that is going to wrap up the open floor there. All right.
That was a lot of fun, by the way.
Yeah, this excellent exchange from both sides tonight. So we're going to enter into this final phase of the debate, closing statements. Quick reminder for the live chat, right? The Q&A is already up there for you guys. So if you got a question for either debater, make sure you drop them in now. But remember, the Super Chat, Rumble Rants, PayPals, Cash Apps, these will take priority. And if they fill up the whole 30 minutes, we may not get to those free ones. So if there's something you really want guaranteed to be asked, send it through one of those priority options. With that being said, we're going to move into the closing. So each debater, since there's 2 topics to cover in the closings, I was figuring instead of 5, I'll give you guys 8 minutes each.
I'm not even
question before we start.
Yeah.
While he's doing the closing, I just got to use the restroom. So
I was going to do the exact same thing when you were doing your closing.
Yeah, there you go. No problem. So yeah, I was figuring I'll put 8 minutes on the clock because you're going to cover 2 different topics in your closing. So just in case you needed that little couple extra minutes. So whenever you're ready, Steelborne, since you're on the affirmative, you get to go first. Whenever you're ready, I will start the timer up with your voice.
Yeah, so let's start with the first prompt. Does the Old Testament teach a Trinity? I think I absolutely demonstrated the Old Testament teaches multiplicity within Yahweh, within the person of Yahweh, right? Like you can't. It's totally inconsistent to say that God is ultimately one, right? Only one person. There's no multiplicity within God. But at the same time, the angel of the Lord, who's called Yahweh and referred to as God and worshipped as God turned his face to Gideon. Jacob wrestled with the angel of the Lord. And when Jacob asked him his name, he said, "You know my name, for it is wonderful." We know that what wonderful means because if you go a little farther back, it actually wonderful is identified as the name of God. God's name is wonderful. Right, so there's no way to have this multiplicity in Yahweh.
I think we'll probably stop
at
after the closing.
Having like a dianity,
Yeah,
which I think that's the term. I could be wrong, but it can't simply be unity. And Unitarian positions have a whole bunch of problems. Like, how can God be all and ever loving if He's eternally by Himself, like before creation?
It's like similar to that.
So we'll move over to the second one.
Horace
What
thing
is
on
Jesus
that.
the Messiah? Well, in order to actually argue the
Watched.
claim of is Jesus the Messiah, you have to at first you have to accept the accounting of Jesus Christ through the New Testament. Otherwise, who the fuck are we talking about? If you don't accept the New Testament for my argument for was Jesus the Messiah, did he fulfill the prophecies? Then there's no way to even who the fuck are we talking about if we're not talking about the Jesus of the New Testament? Just some guy named Jesus who lives down in Mexico? No, it has to be the Jesus of the New Testament described in the New Testament by the apostles in the Gospels, in the epistles, right? Like this has to be the person that we're referencing here, the person that was crucified under Pontius Pilate. I don't actually see even a way around this. Like you just kept saying, I reject the New Testament. It's like, that's great. Then what the fuck are we talking about? If you're going to reject the New Testament for me to make the argument,
Kirk has
whether or not Jesus was the
definitely
Messiah,
done well.
who are we talking about? If not
A
the
lot
accounting of
better
that person
than
in those
expected.
in the books of the New Testament. And then remember, the New Testament is arbitrary, is bad because Occam's razor, even though progressive revelation happened throughout all of both Jewish and Christian history, absolutely biblical concept, right? David wasn't born like 5 minutes after Noah, right? There was progressive revelation all the way through that. God does not reveal. So if you think about it in this terms, right? When you have a child, and I don't know if Kirk has a kid, and I'm not interested to know, but when you have a child, you don't reveal all of your rules and you don't lay down all of your rules to the 2-year-old. They don't fucking understand the rules yet. As they get older, you slowly lay down more rules.
Getting that Kirk house tour at the same time.
You don't have to though. Like, you don't have to explain that.
Waiting for his stepmom to pop up in the back.
Your rules progress with the child, right? Their curfew, their time before they have to go to bed, that changes as they get older. What they're allowed to eat for breakfast, that changes as they get older. You're not pumping your fucking 4-year-old full of a bunch of Captain Crunch cereal to send him to school and then tell him to sit down and shut up. Makes no sense. So it also makes perfect sense for God to progressively reveal the law to us and progressively teach us, or reveal Himself.
You're just
to
walking
us.
in
We're not going to
circles.
fucking understand it
What
all
is
at once,
happening
especially
here?
not in the Old Testament or during the time of the Old Testament. We were spiritually toddlers. We were the same thing. We were spiritually toddlers in the Old Testament. In the New Testament, I'd say like we're spiritually like fucking 10. I don't know. Honestly, with that, I'll just see the rest of my closing. This was really fun, and Kirk, I had a lot of fun arguing with you. Absolutely no hard feelings.
All right. Thank you.
And if
for
you want to do
that.
a political debate on Zionism, I'm always there for it.
All right. And I'm there to moderate when you need it. But yeah, that'll wrap up the closing.
We're here to review it
Thank you for
when
that.
you need it.
And Cool Kid Kirk, whenever you are ready for your
Yeah.
closing statement,
I'm
I
ready.
will start the timer up with your voice.
So while everyone is using Russian, I'd like to talk to the audience. Basically, I think what's pretty clear in this debate that there are certain points that Steelborne didn't address in a way that is satisfactory, at least to me.
It's true.
First being, how does he reconcile multiple actual infinities? If God the Father is necessary, is God the Son necessary? Is God the Holy Spirit necessary? If God is a necessary being, how can God be 3? That just doesn't make sense. If it's necessary, God's 1. But in any event, I would like to emphasize that the prohibition that are mentioned in the Hebrew Bible as part of the Mosaic Covenant are an eternal law. It says explicitly in the Torah, this is a for you and your
Wonder Bucket
kids,
just come to
for all the
drop
generations
these
of Jews.
based
It's
puns.
an eternal law. If the law was not if the law that was given in the Hebrew Bible it does not apply to modern day Christians, who does it apply to? Well, basically nobody. Well, then it's not an eternal law. So I would say, if given straightforward biblical interpretation, that if you're looking at what was the law is eternal or not, it would have to be eternal. And if it's not eternal, then it's not eternal, and it's not a law that is meant to be eternal. So why would they say it's eternal?
To
And now I'm kind of repeating myself, but it's such a
3,000 years ago.
Either law is eternal or it's not. If it's eternal, then it would say it's eternal, and if it's not eternal, then it would not say it's eternal, and it says it's eternal. Now, I'm also going to add that the Steelborne over here says that Jesus must be the Messiah because of this, and this. He's not saying it's probably Jesus is the Messiah because he fulfilled these prophecies. Jesus must be the Messiah, despite the fact that there's not 100% proof that Jesus must exist as a historical figure, despite the fact that there are numerous things which Jesus doesn't fulfill, and despite the fact that there are glaring logical contradictions when you think about the Trinity that scholars and theologians have debated for centuries. I don't want to harp on it too much because I don't want this to sound kind of prejudiced, but I do think the wealth and success of the Jewish people throughout history, for example, the fact that Jews are 0.2% of the global population to 20% of Nobel Prize winners, is evidence that Judaism is true, because it means that God still has the covenant with Jewish people.
I wonder who's voting for that high
why Jewish people are so successful. And with that,
Could it be other Jews?
And one more thing: if Jesus is the Messiah,
it's like the Obama
why
meme
is
of him
Yeah.
putting the medal on himself.
I'm curious what the world peace thing is one thing, but then you have other things like world language. I think there's other things. So I'll also say, it's not that there's one or two. There's multiple things. And I'll ask him this: what is the name of the mathematician who questioned numbers who said Jesus is probably the Messiah, fulfilled messianic prophecies? Because if you give me the actual name and the research, I'll actually look into it myself. But with that, I'll see the rest of my time.
All right, thank you.
Not a mathematician. I don't know if Steelborne made that claim.
That's going to conclude the closing
he's
statement.
wrong if
Great
he
work
did.
from both debaters tonight. Okay, if you're enjoying what you're seeing out there, make sure you like the stream, subscribe to the channel, so you don't miss any of the debates we host here. Okay, on Swords of Reason, we run all kinds of matchup: political, cultural, social, philosophy,
True.
theology, internet beefs, trending topics, anything there's a conversation worth clashing over, we bring it into the arena. And also, don't forget to subscribe to Steelborne. Cool Kid isn't a streamer, so he's come and blessed us with his graceness, even though he's not a streamer. So thank you for that, Cool Kid. But make sure you guys go subscribe to Steelborne. His link is in the description. So before I start the timer for the chat Q&A, I always like to ask a question to each debater myself or two based off things I heard, arguments I want clarified.
Let's hear
maybe something I think
Speakeasy's
was
questions,
missed
and
or
then
deserves
we'll
another
head out.
pass. And then after that, we'll start the official chat Q&A. So I'll start with my first question for topic one. And on the I only have one question for each topic. But
Hey, real quick, can I give him the name of that mathematician real quick?
yeah.
So his name, I actually really underestimated the number that he gave. So his name was Peter Stoner. He
I gotta look
calculated
this
the
up.
probability of one person accidentally fulfilling the messianic prophecies attributed to Jesus Christ in the New Testament. And so for the 48 prophecies that he accounted for, it was 1 in 10 to the 157th power.
Okay. So Peter
Which
Stoner?
is way more than 200 billion to 1. But yeah, it's Peter Stoner.
Okay, I'll check it. I'll look.
Crazy last name, but
It is a crazy last name.
Unfortunate for him. But anyways, so my first question is going to be for topic one is for
Bro was a
the
math
affirmative.
major. Is Keelan
so
going to
if-
be a mathematician? I
if
think that's
Jesus
kind of crazy.
fulfilled like the
He's
messianic
gonna
prophecies
be a
spiritually
magician.
rather than like politically, because like we're having this debate right now, obviously. What objective standard tells us when a prophecy should be understood spiritually versus literally?
So
Is that you?
he's asking me that.
Yeah, it's a Steelborne.
So from our view, the Holy Spirit guides the church in its understanding. Now, I'm honest, to be totally fair, I don't actually know the answer to the question you just asked me. See, I don't know. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know. I would say the teaching of the church and the church tradition, and the historic interpretation of the prophecies.
Okay, you understood my question, though, right?
Like I understood the question, but it's like I'm not exactly sure how to answer that.
Okay. But well, what if I asked it
You're
like this?
supposed
then?
to say ask a priest.
What's the consistent rule that we use to determine when a prophecy should be taken literally versus spiritually? Right. Remember, like we earlier, it was talking about like restoring Israel, bringing.
Yeah,
world
for there,
peace.
I would just appeal to the church fathers and church tradition.
The church tradition. That's the consistent rule. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a fair answer.
And the church has maintained their positions on this for 2,000 years. So
Okay. And did you have anything you wanted to say to that one there, Cool Kid?
No, I'll just let it stand.
Okay. And then my second question for you, Steelborne, it's going to be on the topic two. How do we distinguish for everyone in the chat? Topic two was, well, actually, I did that backwards.
yeah, no, the Trinity one.
Yeah. The Trinity one is this one though. How do you distinguish like between like Old Testament intentionally teaching plurality within God versus like Christians reading later New Testament theology, like reading it back into it? You know what I'm trying to say?
Because the idea of multiplicity in Yahweh was actually that was prevalent before the time of Christ. That was an actual idea before Christ.
Okay. And then Cool Kid, did you want to say anything to that?
No, just I'll just let Sam.
Okay. And then, so my questions for you, Cool Kid. So I'll start with the topic of the Jesus is the Messiah question for you. So if the Messiah has not yet come, what's like the specific measurable criteria someone would need to fulfill, like that would allow you to say with confidence that person is the Messiah?
Well, the person who had to fulfill all of the messianic prophecies prophesied in the Hebrew Bible that are associated with the Messiah.
Where's the entailment that has to be done at one time?
I'm Speakeasy asking the question about what I would
No
believe
crosstalk,
before-
Steelborne.
No, I know, but I'm just asking, like, why is it entailed that it has to be done at one time?
because that's just my outcomes based belief. But I don't really want to.
That's fair. I just wanted that to be addressed. Like, that's a fair answer to say that.
Yeah. Fair enough. And then, so my second question for you is based on the Old Testament teaching the Trinity. We had brought up Old Testament passages where God appears to speak and act in ways that obviously suggesting like a distinction within God. So, like, what interpretive principle explains like those passages without simply dismissing it?
So I would say what I said to Steelborne earlier, that it's referring to the predicates, the different predicates, because God has an infinite amount of predicates. So when he's saying we're going to create humans in our image, he's referring to the we is all the cluster of predicates that God has. That he's intending to create human beings with.
Yeah, I think that's a crazy answer.
Right.
But
And did you have
even Kirk
anything
said
you wanted to
that
say
he
for
wasn't
Yeah,
he wasn't prepared. He wouldn't have necessarily.
God's saying we're going to
chosen
make man in our image. So man hasn't been made
that next
yet.
time.
So man hasn't been made. Man
You
has
might
not
be
been made yet.
testy.
But God
You're
says we're going to make
fulfilling
man
a
in
lot of
our
the
image, the image
Antichrist
that he shares
prophecies. So
with all of mankind. How do we share the image of God if God also is not? If God's not a person like
the
Jesus Christ?
chicken.
Because
Eternal
it's referring to the predicates that he's intending to make.
So he says, "Let us make man in our image," and he's referring to all of the future people.
Yes, all the future.
Okay,
people
but
are predicates.
yeah, I think we're in a crosstalk thing.
Yeah, I think it kind of smoothly like transitions.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we'll end there. Kirk, you did a good job.
Good job,
I
Turkey
think
boy.
my view, I think you did better in the first half, but it also makes sense because you guys started going down some like side quests, and so I think when it came to the other topics that we paused a lot and talked about, I think I agreed with Steelborne. I thought a lot of his points were stronger in that, but that was kind of outside the scope of the debate, which is fine. But I think overall on the thing that you came to debate, I think you did a very good job. And even on those points, I just thought he made slightly better arguments, but I think he did a good job in those points as well.
Well,
And so, yeah,
appreciate that.
Yeah,
Good job.
good job, Kurt.
good job. And I hope you
The boy,
do
Kirk,
more
the
debates.
boy.
Yeah. I'm proud of you, Kirk. Like I said, everyone said you did horrible and you were being slaughtered and stuff. And, but I thought you really held your own, especially for, I don't know if you've done a lot of debates like this, but.
Well, I'm curious. If I was a girl, what do you think my name should be?
Oh my gosh. Okay, you know what? Steelborne slaughtered in that debate.
Kirk got roasted in this debate. Okay, he got fucking cooked.
Like Naomi, do you think that would be a good name for me?
I'm not gonna give you a what I think would be a good female name for you, Kirk. I'm not gonna do
That's
it.
a fantastic name.
Yeah, Kirk is a strong name. Okay.
Strong masculine.
Yeah.
Kirk's a great. That's how I'd reference it.
You want to be
Slaughtered
Naomi? No, come on, not Naomi. Be Kirk, okay?
Yeah, be Kirk.
Be the Kirk you were meant to be, okay? The Kirk we saw during this debate. Just less of the Judaism stuff. You take out the Judaism stuff, you take out the trans stuff, you'll be set, okay? Those are my two major points of life advice for you.
Oh.
But okay, thank you, Kirk, for being here for both of these and giving us your live thoughts. And thank you, Big Soda. Thank you, Keelan, for joining, and anyone else that's joined Alex. Thank you, Alex. Not thank you, Testy, who never came on the panel. What a chicken, freaking bok. And so God bless you guys. Take care. I'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow, our very own John Zerka will be joining us again to go over that debate. Again, hopefully it makes more sense to me. I'm going to, he said he's going to try to explain it because I don't know if I was just too many White Claws deep, but I was getting lost when he was trying to explain it. I was getting fucking lost. And I think it is complicated, but hopefully if he explains it simpler and I am less drunk, then maybe it will be more understandable. But yeah, that will be tomorrow. God bless you guys. Take care. Have a good night. Peace out. 07s.